Okay, I think we're all here. I'm going to call the July 23rd Single Family Design Board to order. Could you please take attendance?
Here we go. Vice Chair Miller.
Here.
Board Member Farrell.
Here.
Board Member James.
Here.
Board Member Matisha.
Here.
Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. If there's anyone on the floor that has something they'd like to say, they have a 2-minute time period. If you'd like to come forward and have something to speak that's not on our agenda today, this is your time to do that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a public comment.
I don't think you're on.
You want to sit over here? And
I would. Hello,
Hi.
my name is Lisa James, and I'm here to announce that on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, the 25th of July, at the Maritime Museum in the harbor, there will be a plein air landscape painting show by Scape, Southern California artists painting for the environment. And the benefit is for Heal the Ocean, and 40% of all the proceeds go to that cause, Heal the Ocean. Not only that, there is free admission into the Maritime Museum, which is a rare treat. And it is going to be super hot, so come down to the harbor. There's a wine and cheese reception, and there's lots of great local plein air, very renowned painters painting there. And please support the cause. And my little sister Mila Cato painted that painting. So
great, thank you. Any other announcements? See no other announcements. I'm going to close the public announcement phase and go to approval of our minutes for the Single Family Design Board for July 9th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go through it.
wait, we vote after.
Then make the, okay. Number 104 Jorgensen Lane. Number 2, 1533 San Miguel Avenue. Number 3, 1117 Harbor Hills Drive. Number 4, 945 Arbolito Road. Number 520 Wooddale Lane. Number 6, 2840 Serena Road. Number 7, 917 Paseo Ferrello. Number 8, 1666 Las Canoas Road. Okay, seeing no comments, I move to make a motion on the minutes.
Yeah, I make that motion.
And who seconded?
I second it.
All those approved?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you. Okay, for the consent calendar for July 2nd, 2018, Katie?
Sorry, was that July 16th?
Oh, I'm sorry, July 16th.
Okay. The minutes for the
Oh, here we
July 16th SFDB consent agenda are as follows. Item A, 626 Sunrise Vista Way received approval of review after final is submitted. Item B, 1533 San Miguel Avenue received final approval as submitted. Item C, 840 C. Melinda Lane was postponed indefinitely due to the applicant's absence. Item D, 1260 Mountain View Road was postponed indefinitely due to the applicant's absence. Item E, 1103 West Mitchell Terranas Street received project design approval and final approval, as well as the minor zoning exception approval with the comments that the NPO and MZE findings have been met.
Thank you. Now for today's consent of July 23rd.
The minutes for the SFDB consent agenda for July 23rd are as follows. Item A, 840 C. Melinda Lane, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item B, 1260 Mountain View Road was continued 1 week to consent. Item C, 321 East Mitchell Terrena Street, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. And item D, 841 De La Guerra Terrace, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings, with the condition that the applicant shall submit sound specifications for the proposed pool equipment prior to building and safety submittal.
Thank you, Katie. I think I forgot to make a motion for the July 16th. Do I need to make a motion for that?
Yeah, we need a motion for both.
Okay, I want to make a motion to approve the minutes for July 16th.
I second.
Okay.
We need a first and a
Who's the
second.
first and the second?
You want to go first?
You'll be the,
I'll make that motion.
okay, and you second it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, let's make a motion for July 23rd. Who can make a motion for that?
Approve July 23rd minutes.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any announcements from these? Or
Yes, I have two announcements. First, today Brian will be presenting a project before the board, so I will need someone to step in his chair for him while he presents. Do I have someone who can volunteer for that? Lisa? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And then I just wanted to announce that we did receive an appeal for 917 Paseo Forello. So I'll have more information on that when we have a date for the appeal hearing.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other reports? Do we have any subcommittee reports? I have nothing to report, so I think we will conclude with that, and we will go to our first project, which is 726 North La Cumbra. Anyone here to present that project? Could you please come forward? Yes, sit right here. Could you introduce yourself? And
My name is Zoe Carlson. I'm the agent
great.
for the owner. And today in front of you, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So
Well, let me do an introduction of what you're presenting, and when I get done, you can present your project. The project involves the subdivision of 726 North La Cumbra Road into 3 lots, ranging in size from 8,000 square feet to 13,100 square feet, in an annexation of the parcels into the city of Santa Barbara. The property is currently developed with a 1,420 square foot single-family residence and a 480 square foot detached garage. There is a county-approved building permit for an addition to the single-family residence. The parcel is accessed off the Pim Place and is bounded by La Cumbra Road to the west. Planning Commission review is required for the proposed tentative subdivision. These are comments only. Project requires Planning Commission review. So,
Okay, before we go any further,
yes.
I need to recuse myself from the project. I own a house within 2 blocks, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we won't have quorum for that item then.
You're the only licensed.
Well, comments only, do we need a quorum for that?
Yeah.
Yes, we need a quorum for any motion, so,
See where we are. Sorry,
Well, isn't it 300 feet and at your discretion?
that's correct.
okay.
No pressure.
It's more than 300 feet. Okay, no, I'll stay. It's more than 300 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
It's 500
Sorry.
feet?
Continue.
Okay. Yeah, let me just double check real quick before we
From city
proceed.
staff want to speak about it?
Yeah, we're gonna check real quick before we.
Okay.
Whether it's 300 or 500
Oh.
feet.
that you have to.
not the corner house, first house on Calisita, east of the Coombe. On the ocean side, on the south side of the road. On the south side of the road, not the corner house, first full house, full lot, on the south side of the road.
Just to let the people in the audience know, what we're looking for is clarification with Joe as to whether it's a conflict of interest, whether he should review this project because he may be in a certain parameter of living close to this project. So we're working that out.
You can move into my guest bedroom for the day if you want.
I don't think that would qualify.
It's not a full block, it's only a couple block, 3 houses. What's
Okay. Well, we did this to save your voice so you can speak clearly.
We'll see how long it lasts. So I'll be brief, just here before you today for vacant lot review in support of our initiation of annexation and 3-way lot split. We've gotten support of this annexation. It's within the city's sphere of influence.
Okay.
We're looking forward to moving forward with the project and see if you have any comments today.
Okay, let's see what we have. These are just basic grade plans, sections, and this is just Okay. Are there any public notice or comments?
We did not receive any public comment.
Okay. Is there any comment from the city at this point in time? Okay. So I'll bring it back to the board for anyone have any questions?
I have a question. There's one house that's there on lot 1 right now. Is that house going to remain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as is, no change.
No
Sorry.
changes to that?
Sorry, real quickly, did you open up the floor to public comment or just ask if I received any public comment?
Well, it was kind of like both, yeah. So I'll open up the floor to public comment.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the board on this item?
Thank you. Yes. Well,
Can you
hold
fill
on.
out
You
a-
need to fill out a form because it's all recorded on the television. There's a little yellow slip, but you can do that later if you'd like. But come on up to the chair and then go ahead and make your question. Give us your question.
You can just state your name for the record, please.
My name's Sharon McKenzie,
Yes.
and I live a couple houses down on Rolling Brook Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And we just wanted to make sure that we've heard that sidewalks are going in. I don't know, the city is going to be doing a lot of, I think the one man owns that whole street.
Okay.
And I've heard sidewalks are going in, they're taking out trees. And I just want to make sure that it's on a hill. So the rainwater comes down on a good year, but we lived there 25 years, so it's flooded several times. And it comes down and it floods our garage and it floods our neighbor's garage. The water comes down from Penn Place down here. So we just wanted to make sure that, I don't know if it's going to go, what kind of drainage the city's putting in, or it looks like there's a bunch of stuff right here.
Well, if you want to, ma'am, ma'am,
If you could come.
could you please come here? Please do it here, because that's where the camera is.
Okay, so,
Have a seat,
so-
put a chair around.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've never done this before yet. Okay, so here's her house.
Yeah.
They're building here, so the water comes down here and flows down here and floods our houses, our garages down here.
Okay.
So I've heard talk of turnarounds for the fire engines, because this is a dead end, we're a dead end. And there was talk of opening it up, and it looks like this, is that open? Is it,
Well, we'll address that question when
Okay.
we take it back to the designer.
okay.
So your question is whether this is open or not?
Yeah, because this is a dead end here, and this is a dead end here.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna open up, and if the drainage is gonna
Okay.
go that
Well,
way. So
we'll-
that's our concern. We'd like that to be, I'd love to talk to someone about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And please fill out a yellow form.
Right here.
They're right here.
And to her. Hold on.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else on the floor want to speak about this project? Okay. Seeing no one coming forward, I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. Anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Is the designer going to please come back?
Thank
Lisa.
you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I will follow up on the lady's comment. Do you have a civil engineer that has addressed the whole drainage? And if you could let us know what's going on with that. it'd be
Yeah,
great.
we've been working. We submitted our first start review, and we got some comments on the stormwater capture, and so we've addressed those comments in our second submittal, and are working with the city staff to work on meeting the drainage requirements for the city.
Where is the county and city property lines right now?
Is that possibly on this site?
Well, you show you right here, but is
Yeah.
all this in the county?
No, so this side of the street is in the city, and this side is within the county.
So there's a,
So the city border is right here, is that what you're saying? Is that where the city limit will be?
no, yeah.
Will be, yes.
So you're moving the
It currently
city
goes.
back this far and including all those lots, those,
Yeah, it's
That lot.
including this
Okay.
current lot in 3 lots.
okay, and it is one lot now.
Correct.
Dividing it into three lots.
Correct. 3 total.
And annexing it into the city. Forgive me, but are there sewers there now?
Yes, there are. The sewer line comes along.
There's the laterals here.
Okay. Well, I have another question while you're looking.
Okay, go ahead.
Woman that came up earlier mentioned something about removal of trees. Do you know what the impact of that is exactly?
Yeah, so we are going to be removing some trees along Penn Place, and those were approved by the Street Tree
Okay.
Advisory. Excuse me.
16 is supply and install 6 street trees.
Commissioner Miller, if I could expand on that, there
Yes.
are 10 trees currently located in the right-of-way along Penn Place that would be removed for the public improvements. The Street Tree Advisory Committee approved the removal with a one-to-one replacement on private property, and then also to install 6 street trees on Penn Place.
Got it. Thank you. And can I ask another question, Joe? Or you? I noticed you have permeable concrete and permeable pavement sections, so it seems like it's all pretty much a permeable surface as well, right?
The project has to comply with stormwater management, and so
Okay.
that is how they have proposed to do it. The Public Works Department agreed to allow the permeable concrete within the right-of-way, which isn't typical, but is one of the few ways that it could be addressed for this project. And then just finally to address the other comment made by the public, there's no proposal to connect Penn Place to Rolling Brook. So there would be a small extension of pavement to allow a fire truck to do the hammerhead turnaround, but no physical connection between the streets.
How far down does Rolling Brook go? How many houses?
There's probably 5 or 6 houses before you come to Callecita, on both sides of the street.
I have another question.
Yes.
For lots 2 and 3, have you already decided, are they going to be single-family residences, duplexes? What's going to be going in there?
There's no proposed development at this time.
Okay.
Chair Miller, the proposed zoning, however, is single family. So that's
Okay.
what would be permitted in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'll go into comments. Does anyone on the board have any comments? Seeing no comments, if someone would like to make a motion, now remember these are comments only. This has to go before the Planning Commission for review. Okay.
The Single Family Design Board would like to send this project on to the Planning Commission with positive comments on the lot, the division of one lot into 3 single-family lots, and that
Will you
What?
approve it as submitted?
No, we're
No,
not
just
approving
comment-
anything, just
make a comment.
commenting on the subdivision itself.
Yep, and that it poses no risk to public safety. Do I need to make NPO findings?
No, we're not making any findings, just comments on the aesthetic appropriateness or
It,
of the grading and.
that we look forward to seeing what happens with grading and find the removal of the existing trees in the public right-of-way to be okay, because it's being mitigated by 1-to-1 street tree replacement in accordance with the city street tree master plan. And that is my motion. Would anyone like to add any?
Well, let's,
Is it going to return back to this board? Okay, it needs to come back to full board, sorry.
come back. Okay, does someone second the motion?
I'll second.
Any comments? The only comment I want to make is I appreciate the fact that they're using permeable pavers, and they're also complying with the Tier 3 stormwater management. It's one of the most strictest management practices that the city has in terms of stormwater management, erosion control, and so.
This is on a hill, on a hill, on a hill.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we can't have engagement
Right,
back and
so,
forth
yeah.
between
So
the
anyway, I
boards.
just want to make it clear that that's, the board recognizes that. So all those all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Did you want to take the other 2 sets, otherwise I'll recycle them? You can take those 2.
Okay, our next project is 1686 Las Canoas Road. Would you like to come forward, please? Let's see, 330.
Good afternoon, Chair,
Hello.
board members.
Before you introduce yourself, would like Jan to give us the minutes of our previous meeting.
Okay. What do I read?
You don't have one.
We don't have one.
Essentially continued from here.
It was forwarded up to you from consent from last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Okay, does someone from city staff want to comment about it or give us a background of what's going on?
Sure. So the project came in for review after final, and there was concern from the neighbor regarding the review after final request. So they requested that the full board review the project rather than just the 2 people at consent. So the board members at the consent hearing forwarded the project to the full board for review. So that's why it's before you today.
Thank you. So would you like to present your
Yeah,
project? Kind of tell us what's going on.
I'm Dawn Sherry. I'm the architect, and with me is Linda Kiefer, the property owner, and Paul from my office, who we presented at consent. So history of the review after final is that it was determined, as grading continued on this property, and Linda will touch on this really briefly, the need for feeding stations for the horses was determined. So we are here today to get approval for the 2 proposed feeding stations. Some of you might remember this project. I know you guys were both on the board. Were you, Joe? So as everybody knows, you're allowed to have in the city of Santa Barbara 5 horses. So this was always meant to be developed as a horse property. And so we were, the background with planning department also is that in order to make a determination that these feeding stations were not considered structures for the purposes of including them in accessory building square footage, we designed them, we worked closely with planning department to make sure that they were comfortable with the amount of enclosed, unenclosed area. It's basically a roof with, where are they, Paul? Basically a series of fences and a roof over an area where the horse enters. You've probably seen these. A computer registers which horse is at the feeding station. It's able to calculate how much food goes into the feeder, and it shuts it down when they've had their allotment, and then they leave, and then they can't get any more until it's time for them. So, but because of the accessory square footage allocation, we kind of modified this in such a way that planning department was comfortable with them not needing a revised allocation for accessory square footage. So the backstory with the consent agenda issue is that the board, I don't know who was here reviewing it, but because of the neighbors concerned about the feeding stations, we're here to you. So we also, as some more backstory, we have a approved grading plan that has been in place for quite some time. That we've been continually working on. It's been a long process. There have been some discoveries after the most recent storms that have required us to kind of rethink some of the best management practices of our SWMP approval, our Tier 3. Okay. Essentially, we have to, on this large parcel, because of the triggers, we had to comply with Tier 3. We always knew that, and we are still, working on some of the grading that is required to assure that no runoff can go to any of the surrounding parcels at all. Some of those BMPs are in place. Some are currently not in place, but are in the process of still being worked on. We've been we're at a standstill because we need to get approval for these feeding stations in order to move forward with the grading, because without the feeding stations in place, we can't backfill against the slabs. So they are going, one here, up against this 15-foot setback, mm-hmm. and one in this lower corner, southeast corner of the property. Without getting into too much detail, there really are only two places for these because of the requirement to capture with our Tier 3 requirements, you'll see a series of swales that are catching around the perimeter all of the runoff and diverting, and capturing it into basically these areas right in here. So there was a change. A previous grading plan did show the swales coming kind of at a 45-degree angle into these areas, but we've since now determined that in order to catch all of the runoff, we're diverting them even more to the exterior, and that also determined, because of visibility, because of slope, because of grading, that there really are only 2 locations for these feeding stations. So I'll just show you some photos because it'll help you understand the extent of grading that's required on this property. Don't be scared. It's extensive, and Linda's already spent close to $200,000 capturing all of the water that's running onto her property. Historically, all the water's been running to all the neighbors. And some of the neighbors' water still runs onto her property, which there's nothing we can do about. But this is looking, here's the driveway, here's looking at the gate, looking in this little area right here, future swale location. There's that. Car happens to be parked there right now. This is the, looking at this current asphalt area that is being removed, and we're putting, this was already approved at final. This is the area where the secondary driveway is going to create a U. That's that area. This is a real pertinent photo, looking at this area, looking toward the northeast property line at the proposed feeding station pad. This is looking closer at the upper portion of that feeding station pad. This one's looking actually kind of up toward, you can see the edge of the house in this one, which is right here. And this is also, again, looking west. The same feeding station. You can see the grade lower, but when the pads get poured, then the grade will be essentially at this upper corner. The pad will be at grade. Here's a good close-up of that. This photo is looking at looking toward this property line, right, Linda? Yeah, that's the retention basin here. And this is this area here, this retention basin. This is the current state of it. Close-up of some of the rocks. This is that same retention basin. And then this is looking at this edge of the round pin toward this direction. This is looking up at the house from this area. Again, looking this direction toward the ocean at this property line. A close-up of the temporary fencing, private, standing right there, standing on the berm, looking toward the neighbor there. And this is farther up the property, looking at the larger. Yeah, it's just looking up here, up there, looking at this area that's currently being still graded. A significant part of the grading was completed, and it worked really well in the last storm, except there were a couple of minor areas that we're now changing.
Well, no, the basin wasn't there.
And so there's, but now it is, and we'd really like to get it in before the next storms come next fall. And then Linda,
Yes.
I think wanted to say a few things.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. we got the grading permit. Oh, it's going to have to be renewed soon. That's how long ago it was. I had no idea the extent of the stormwater management requirement on the property. Property basically goes like this from the street down to the lower property. And after the January rains and the rains in January and February, the erosion control we had in the first rain failed, and we had to do more than was required. And so after the rains, in that process, we hired a landscape architect. The civil engineer came out again and reevaluated the plan and the amount of water and where it was actually going. And so that the change of the swales is part of that, where they come along the edge of the property instead of a V down here, which would make this part of the property vulnerable, and the same at the other corner. It was addressed on both sides, and we were particularly concerned about the bottom because that's the lower slope of the property, and also installed these gravel-filled dry well things, as you can see there, to slow the water down when it came around. So, our request for the grading change should actually be an improvement. It costs more money, but as long as you're spending that much, you want to make sure that it's going to work. And the berm here was approved on the original in this pond here, and they've built it, and so they've created that to get down there. They had to create a way for the equipment to get down because they had to bring gravel, sand, planting material, take away dirt, up back and forth. And so they created along this way, they flattened it out for the equipment to go back and forth. And it's kind of disconcerting that some of that is viewed as our disdain for the process. I mean, it's been incredible to watch this massive thing and this equipment and getting around and how they move dirt from here to there. I think a lot of the issues, what happened when they changed that, everything changed. It's like, okay, if the swales are now not here and they're here, then everything has to go in a different place. The fences, the feeding places for the horses, where the shelters were. And so it was, number one, dictated by where the swales were and how the water was going to do, and then how the grading would relate to that, to ensure that the water got into these basins. I mean, that's the key to the whole thing, and that's what's not built yet, because we're waiting for approval for pieces of it. So they like to start at the bottom, the graders, and work their way up. And these pieces, these three sides, are altered from the original. So we're kind of stuck, and I'm very concerned that we don't get going before the rain comes again. And I think that once we finish the grading, we can deal with a lot of the issues, like the grading has to come first. There's like a cascading effect. Then the irrigation, then the planting, the screening, some of the things we want to do to put in sand, for odor control, for all these different issues can't happen until we have the exact placement. And believe it or not, horses can be trained to go in horse toilets, which allows us, most horses, there's always the exception, but allows us to do better control of smell and also collection of manure, which I saw was kind of the biosolids might be an issue. We muck 3 times a day, 5 days a week, twice on 2 days. All the muck is transported. We put it in a bin up to a UTV, and we put it in enclosed waste bins in the top every day, so they're closed off, and they're at the front of the property where they're collected once a week and take away. So I understand from our neighbors how frustrating this has been. It's a year of dust and noise, and we haven't built anything yet. I mean, here we are a year later, and we haven't. And we're trying to move forward. And I just like to say to the board, I'm really hope that we can get an approval so that we can go ahead and do the things that we need to do to mitigate the concerns and definitely address the water issues.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, I know we're running behind now, but I just wanted to make a point that you could probably see from these photos that once the screening is put in place, which, as Linda mentioned, we can't do until we get the feeding stations approved so we can backfill. These won't be seen. These two feeding stations will not be seen because because we don't want to see Linda doesn't want to see the neighbors any more than they really want to see her, and they don't want to see the feeding stations. So we just want to,
Is there a landscape plan?
Yes, it was approved
Okay.
in final approval.
Got it.
And
Did you want to see the?
Yeah, I'd like the
final
previous drainage plan and the landscape plan. I remember that about a year ago.
yeah.
The final approval set. There's been a couple review after finals, but
So,
It's in the back, right, Paul?
But set the new, what they're proposing on top of that.
now let's see if we
Pull
can
it out.
pull it out. Yeah.
Hold it together.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
That's it.
Let's see.
Put it right down there on top of it. Let's see what they're doing.
See the old there.
So this is the low point now of is this the low point or over here?
Over this fence line.
Okay.
That whole.
You can see how historically all the water has run downhill, obviously.
Yes, yeah. So this is changed because you have swales added there. You have a whole new swale system, right?
No, this
Retention.
is just a landscape plan.
Okay.
It doesn't show all the, you could go to the approved civil engineering.
Okay. Well, I'll wait till questions and we'll get some clarification. Okay, so is that, you done with you? Okay. So we've got a couple people with public comments. I'm going to open up to the floor.
and we also received an item of public comment as well.
I don't know if the board is familiar with the letters that we got.
I
that was
read
sent to
them,
us.
yeah.
So we got a letter from, should we do the letters first or have public comment first?
Yeah, has everyone had an opportunity to read the letter?
No.
Okay, do you want a minute to read it?
Yeah,
Yes,
take,
please.
yeah.
I believe the person who wrote the letter is also here to speak for public comments.
Okay.
I'd like to make a correction. In the letter, it states that the, am I on?
Okay.
That the consent calendar reviewers were Joe Motisha and Jan Farrell, when in fact it was myself and Joe. We were the ones that kicked it up to full board.
Sir, wait.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, just a simple mistake. I was the reviewer along with Joe. Clarification.
If you want me, I can go ahead and just quickly go through these letters. So we got a letter from Mr. Philip West and Susan West expressing their concern regarding the grading and construction of the property adjoins to their property to the east. They have obtained a professional evaluation of the project, specifically grading and drainage by Montos Soto Civil Design Studio. His letter is appended in previously expressed concerns, potential problems. Further, Mr. Soto found no evidence that the applicants, their architect or engineers, obtained a permit for their grading plan from the California State Water Board, as would be required for a project of this size. Linda Kiefer and Jerry Roberts, applicants, have repeatedly shown their disdain for the planning and permitting process, as previously documented in our letters of July 2nd, April 11th, 2018, which are appended. We also provide photo documentation to who to present it to members of Jan Farrell and Joseph Matisha of the consent agenda. And you're saying you were there, not Jan. Okay. At the meeting were considerations before the full SFD board were recommended. Linda Kiefer and Sherry Associates Architects exhibited a revised site plan which showed considerable alterations to the original site plan approved by this board in November of 2017. Their assurance to the contrary, the grading done to date does not conform to either the approved plans or the proposed revisions. We consider our property to be at risk for the storm damage. If the power of the members of the SFD was decide to approve the revised plan, we would ask that the approval be conditional on a special inspection after grading is complete and before final inspection by the city is requested. Joe Tasca is an engineer on record, both the original and revised site plan. We would then expect that Mr. Tasca, a letter of compliance addressing the city and the document of the public record indicating the final grading conforms to plan. Okay. Got another letter from Philip West. The road currently cuts the slopes into the hill, has a potential to collect additional stormwater.
I don't think we need to read all of those. Those are just the previous public comments.
Well, basically, kind of both, they're majorly concerned about runoff. So, okay, I'll just...
And I'd just like to clarify, if you do want to put conditions on the project, it would have to be aesthetic related conditions of approval or something to the grading. I don't think we can require additional site inspections. That would have to be something the building division would implement. Not.
I have some questions and comments too when we get to that.
If they've,
Well,
to me, aesthetics, if they've changed the grading without approval, then we can state that, no, it's not aesthetically what it should be.
If you think there's concerns with the grading, then you could address that, but it needs to be grading and aesthetic related, not beyond that.
Your question and comment when we come to that.
So just refer to the guidelines and what you have there.
I'll take it a step at a time. I would like to hear from...
Yes, let's
do this.
Okay,
first.
so we've reviewed the letters, so
remember-
we're going to open for public comments. We'd like to free a chair to Jen Sorensen.
No, let's go ahead and free a chair so they can point to the plan if they need to.
If you could, that would be nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just- okay. We have a, do you need a pointer? We have that somewhere buried.
Nope, they got lost.
We lost our pointer. If you could state your name, please, and tell us where you live. And
Sure. Jens Sorensen. My husband and I live probably the biggest boundary to the property, the lower half, like 1608 Las Canoas. No, actually.
over there? Okay.
There's the pointer.
There you go.
Down here, we purchased this property just 2 years ago, so we kind of just entered when this project was just getting started. So unfortunately, I didn't get involved, in that initial conversation about it. I've worked pretty closely with Linda over the last winter because we had extensive flooding. We had mudslides coming through here, filling our dry creek with a foot of mud, which runs like 5 feet by our master bedroom. I think that probably happened at least 3 times. It was a nightmare. And during all the rain events, were in the middle of trying to build these catchments. And they built this one catchment, but in one rain event, it was full and going to overflow and breach our property within like an hour or 2. So, I worked very closely with Linda, just expressing my concern. It was just mud coming from everywhere off this property. I know that they've re-engineered a lot of this to try and catch more of that water, but I can tell you the calculations of, I just know there's a tremendous amount of water that comes through here onto my property and within 5 feet of our master bedroom. So I appreciate the extra effort trying to at least retain some of that. The other issue that I have is, so I think that's where I differ with the assessment. The last rain was pretty easy. It was really bad. I have pictures of, what used to be when we first bought the property, that creek was clear water. We have turkeys that were, playing in the water and everything. The last rain, it was like chocolate milk coming down and had to be dug out a few times. The other issue that I just want to point out is you noticed, I think all the angles of those photos don't really show the impact this project has on our property. Our house is down here, pretty much far down slope, and all of our bedroom windows, and we're in the middle of a master bathroom remodel that has a big window that faces the rear of the property because we just have beautiful boulders running through here and oak trees. for the first 3 months, all I saw was just dozers and just, there was no privacy. So I put up that privacy screen because it just, you have 5 horses and volunteers here all day long, looking in your bathroom, in the master bedroom. So I don't know how I can make the request. I've talked to Linda about this, but there's got to be some way of giving me some privacy, other than me putting up this screen myself. You'll notice the slope of this property.
Okay,
It
if you can
puts,
wrap up, please.
yeah, sorry. It puts these buildings almost like a second story behind us. So there's been 3 months of land or of excavation going on constantly the last 3 months.
Okay.
Every day. There's fill. This is 8 feet higher than it was
If
naturally.
you can kind of wrap up, like is it a privacy issue? Is that
Well,
what
it's a
you-
privacy, but if I look throughout my property, I can see that foundation.
Okay.
So when they build a structure on there, I've got like a second-story building over me.
So that's your concern is
That's
privacy?
my concern.
Okay.
Privacy. Plus, we have a stand of old oak trees here.
Yeah.
And this is just right at the canopy line, and they've already cut in about 8 feet down into
I'm
the
going to have
roots.
to let you kind of
Okay,
cut out because
sorry.
of your
All
2-minute
right,
allotments.
So my concern is privacy.
Okay.
And also the odor control. Every night we have to close our windows because the
Okay.
horse
Okay.
odor comes down to us. Sorry.
All right. That's good. All right.
right.
Thank you. Philip West.
Ms. Sherry, can I take your chair? My wife's going to come up and join us.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. In an attempt to
Do you want to
save,
sit down and speak your name
Time,
and speak in the
presented-
microphone, please?
in an attempt, Philip West, W-E-S-T, my wife Susan West, we were neighbors to the west of the applicant's property. In the interest of your time, I prepared the written letters that have, for the most part, been read, and I'll only recapitulate a couple of those. I was encouraged to hear that with the first project discussed, stormwater drainage was a concern.
Excuse me,
and
can we just clarify, are you giving your 2 minutes to him, or will each of you be speaking?
I will give mine to him, but
Okay, so you have 4 minutes to speak, okay.
that stormwater drainage is a concern because that is certainly our concern. I did prepare, well, let me apologize for misidentifying Lisa James and Ms. Farrell. There are a couple of photographs here which I prepared because I didn't, at the time of the consent agenda meeting, consent calendar meeting, we did not have the availability of the overhead projector.
Could you state
So-
where your property is? Yeah, your
Yes, we are
property.
neighbors on the west. So
1674 West Mills.
we live right here.
There, okay.
This had been, I'm encouraged to hear Mr. Sorensen's comments. I'm sorry that I have not yet met him. He may well have bigger trouble than we do. Horses are a beautiful thing, especially if they can use a toilet, but a large storm that washes out a portion of my property would not be a beautiful thing. And our concern focuses on the grading that has been done and the grading that has been proposed but not yet completed. If you'll pull out just that packet of documents that has a paper clip on it, there are 2 photos included. These photos are obviously taken from a different perspective than those presented by Ms. Sherry. And the photos were selected to reinforce the findings of an independent civil engineer who surveyed the property for us from our property, of course, across the property line at the end of last week. The first photograph, labeled A, is a photograph looking from west to east.
Do you want to bring your photographs up here so
Sure.
that they can be on record, the camera?
So the orientation actually is this. So this photograph is being taken in this direction. The construction you see here is the proposed, as yet unpermitted, horse feeding station. And above that is a long stretch of graded ground, which the engineer identifies as a road, which extends about 2/3 the distance across the property, and as he points out, catches all the water coming down from above, from the house, as you see here in the upper corner of the picture. That road diverts that drainage directly to our property line at the present time. The second photo is an updated version of one I presented to the two members at the consent calendar. It's taken from this position looking upwards, and it shows the very close proximity of the forms for the planned feeding station, the very close proximity to our property line. The property line actually lies 6 inches to the east or 6 inches onto 1686 property, so that you can see there's a very narrow band here with which the graders, the civil engineers for planning have to develop a means for diverting this water into the swale on the south end of the property and away from our property where it currently would be diverted. So there is an existing problem as identified visually by me and by the independent engineer who reviewed the situation last week. Currently, there's a huge amount of water, potentially water from half the upper portion of the property being diverted to our fence and to our property.
Downhill. Downhill.
This
Downhill. It goes downhill.
Well, it's different. They're difficult to tell the perspective from the photograph, but the slope here is actually this direction.
Like that. And what is the slope this way? Is there a slope this way? In other words,
Could I answer that question?
in other words, well, the contour lines are getting lower and lower, so it must be going downhill that way.
Well, this is the plan. What I'm trying to point out is that the grading has not been done per
Just
plan.
answer my question.
Then I didn't catch the question.
Is the water diverted down that way?
No.
Also this way, but is it down that way? These are contours right here.
Right.
So the water, contour is lower as it goes down. So the water is going down that way.
The land does go down.
The slope is
Slope of
towards
the
our
land.
property line.
Okay, well, it's towards your property line, but it's also going down.
Of course, because our property slopes
Towards
downward
the
as well.
south.
Yes.
Towards the south, okay.
Yes.
That's fine. Continue.
The most important thing I can say here is we oppose the revisions to the original site plan. The revisions here are really substantial. But if you decide to approve this, we would simply ask that you recommend that a special inspection be done, perhaps by the same civil engineer who drew up the original grading plan, for him to say, yes, the grading has been done per plan, and for that report to be submitted before the city gives final approval on their inspection. I think it's important that a professional, in this case the engineer of record, take responsibility for the plan and take responsibility on behalf of the applicant who is paying his fee, that the grading will not be disruptive or cause damage to neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you. Is that the end of your presentation?
I think that's enough.
Okay.
And I thank you for your forbearance.
All right, thank you. Okay, that was Susan. I think that's it.
No. Oh, yeah, that's right, okay.
Yeah, all right, I think that's the conclusion of our open forum. People speak, right?
And just before we proceed, I'd like to remind the board, for review after final, it does not open the discussion to the entirety of the project. It is specifically for the items being requested, which are the feeding structures, the pasture shelters, the fencing, the water storage tanks, bioswale alterations and revisions to the driveway material. And if those changes impacted grading, then that you can review as well, but not the project as a whole.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. If you want to come back to the speaker, if anyone at the board has any questions.
I had a question.
Yes.
So this looks like it's also going to be a drainage catch-all or water catch-all. What is this going to be down in?
That's where all the water goes.
Right, so you have water can go here and in this area also. So you now have two areas to catch runoff water. Okay.
There always were.
These are like, this is a bio
Bio-
basin.
they're
and
bioretention
this is,
basins.
Like a catch basin to collect it first, and then into another one, and then through a rock filter drainage thing into the final
Okay.
water one.
Thank you. That's my question.
I have a question, and I'm just trying to review myself. So if I asked a question that we've already covered already, do we have? Are there permits for the 2 feeding stations?
That's what we're here
Oh.
to get a permit for.
And you've started building them already, and you've changed.
They graded for
There's a
them.
question. I don't know if I have to put these into questions. So let me make the question first before somebody accuses me of making comments. I have a habit of doing that. You're here to get permits for these feeding stations. They have been started already, which is basically against the law.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We get that a lot here. And to put these feeding stations in, you have to, which is aesthetic, you have to change the grading.
We have
You
to
have
build
changed, yes or no? You have changed the grading.
We have to build a slab for the feeding stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you said that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. And this one picture that Mr.
West.
brought forward shows about, I'm guessing, probably 20 feet between, maybe not even 20 feet, maybe 15 feet between the slab of the feeding station and the property line.
It's about 19 3/4.
That was a good guess, okay.
Yeah,
So you've changed the grading, and you're asking permission to change that grading, and all of a sudden, we're looking at a slab that's going to set up, which wasn't there before, which is built now against code.
Or against, without permitting.
Without a permit, and it looks like it's setting at least, I'm looking at probably 4x8s or 4x10s, and we're looking at 3 of them. We're looking at probably 3 feet in the air at the southeast, that corner over there.
Yep.
North is this way. So we're looking at the southwest corner.
Yep.
Up in the air farther than it was. I gotta talk into this thing. I get a bell. I get a call. Okay. Yeah, that sounds better. And I think Lisa and I, you can follow up after I've said all my things. Okay. We brought this in front of the board because this is a major, forgive me, I'm going into comments again. I shouldn't be
Can you
doing
hold
this.
off?
I'll hold off.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
Lisa.
Thank you. I would like to follow up with a question.
Yeah, questions now, please.
Does a grading inspector, because you have a grading permit, does the grading inspector go out and review and approve grading at certain points along the way? And if so, when was the last time that happened? Question.
And did he approve?
To part 1 of the question is yes, and we've been in really close communication with Brian Gronebeck, the building inspector, and he is aware of the requirement to make changes to the grading plan to ensure that zero runoff goes to the neighbors. And it's I don't know if I can explain that as grading goes on, it's impossible to get a separate revision permit for every single minor change that happens to the grading. And it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Brian's suggestion to assure that we would submit a revised grading plan, which when the changes were taking place, that reflected the final resting place for all of the spot elevations. And he's aware of the future proposal for the feeding stations. And
Who is this? Who is your inspector from
Brian
the city?
Gronebeck.
What he asked, and going way back to March or February or whatever, he said, look, get everything on the plan, get the fencings, the feeding stations, the new features, get everything on the plan, because how can I inspect it and make sure that it's according to plan if I don't have the final plan? So you make this and it's on this plan, but then you're gonna do this. He said, get everything approved. And then when you're doing it, I will come out and make sure that it's according to plan. And he said, put everything, the fencing on the plan, the feeding stations, the shelter.
Right.
He said, don't piecemeal it, like go for the grading plan, go for this, go for that. He said, get everything on the plan so that when I come out here and we're done, it's exactly according to plan.
So, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I have a comment.
Well, wait, we're in questions still.
Oh, question, okay.
Because I have a few questions. So I want to.
My question is, did I stray into the wrong meeting? This seems like an agricultural property review board, not a single-family design board, and I don't even know how to tackle this.
Well, maybe
I haven't seen anything with design here. I really haven't. So I'm perplexed, and I probably
Well,
have
it's an
that same-
aesthetic issue in terms of the fabric of the community, of the look of the community.
Okay.
You have to be able to.
Design tells me something else, and I don't see it here.
We're not done.
Yeah, just.
Okay, well, then one of the comments.
Yeah, so I have let me see if I can put this in a nutshell and understanding what happened. So the first question I have is, you built this without a permit. Why did you build this without a permit?
Totally miscommunication and misunderstanding, and then stopped. So there's
What do you mean it
nothing-
was miscommunication?
There was the general contractor that was on the project at the time is no longer on the project. There was a miscommunication about going ahead and forming up for the slab, knowing that the grading was happening and that the grading had to be done the slab had to be poured in order for the grading to be completed. So there was a...
Well, wait a minute. So if there wasn't a permit, then I would assume that you didn't intend on building it when you originally submitted this, right?
No, it apparently, we had it engineered and we were ready to go and get the permit. And they were grading, they were trying to take care of this area, and my concern was trying to get that biobase.
You're still not, I'm not getting a good answer here. I'm trying to figure out why you built this without a permit, because
You mean why we did the foundation,
because it's not built yet, it's just formed, the slab is not poured.
Right.
Because
But-
then,
Excuse me, it is built.
You're starting to build it without a permit, and I'm wondering why you didn't put it on your original set of plans to have it part of the whole scope of work, is my question.
in the very original,
Yes.
in the
Well, the initial permit.
2 years ago or
Why,
a year ago?
yes, why was that not included in that original permit?
2 reasons.
Okay.
One is that I didn't even know about feeding stations then. I didn't know how we were going to do it. It wasn't part of the thing, but we had shelters, but the shelters were, I think they were here and here, which now interfere in the plan, so they had to be moved. So then the feeding stations, we found these incredible stations that deal with the issues that we have around feeding. And then
So
we
now
had,
you have to come back, because now you've just.
we didn't know about them. We didn't
Right.
even know what we didn't know. We
What
didn't
is
even
it-
know that we needed them.
and then we had to go to building to make sure we could actually.
Right, so this is,
How to address it as square footage, because that affected the,
yeah, I got it. Let me just stick
Everything
with my
was sort
question
of-
and answer so we can keep this simple, because this is very complicated. So what is it exactly you're doing on this property with the horses? Is it a business you're running, or you're training horses, or you just have a bunch of pet horses? What are you doing? Because it sounds
I
like
have
you're.
one pet horse. I work with the county, with the county animal control.
Okay,
Animal Services,
yeah,
and they have horses that they've rescued
okay, so
that
you,
need training and rehabilitation before they can offer them for adoption.
okay,
And so we try to bring horses in and move horses out, and the county makes the decision about who comes in and when they're available
do you
for
have,
adoption.
so I have a question with Katie about this. Is the city aware of this? And
Yes, it's an allowed use.
Okay, perfect. So is there a limit of how many horses they can have?
5.
5. So you can't have any more than 5 horses?
Right.
Okay, all right. Got it. So this is sort of like a learning curve for you as well.
Well, yeah, and because these horses aren't normal horses. I mean, the
Okay.
feeding stations came because we've been getting horses that were abused and starved and have issues, metabolic
yeah.
issues, and that we have to deal with in a different way than you would normally with a normal horse.
So I have another question. So you have to comply with Tier 3, right?
Yes.
Which is the strictest storm management code. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tier 3 is where you have to retain all the water on the property in a 50-year storm event. Is that correct?
I believe it's a 100-year storm event. So it's like 1 inch for 24 hours for a 100-year storm event.
Yeah, so if there was a major deluge, you're responsible for that major deluge to be retained on your property.
Yes.
And so one of the reasons why in just having to put this here, your Tier 3 compliance didn't comply now, so you have to come back, revisit the requirement, right? And that's why you're suddenly doing all this new grading, right?
Yeah, it's just for the 2 slabs. The whole rest of the property
Is the same.
Is the same, except for the fact that, as I explained earlier,
Yeah.
these came in closer, and now they're going around so that we can assure, because of the rains
Yeah.
and the changes that they saw based on the events that happened, those were also changes that required us to go back. And if we don't get these changes to grading approved, we cannot assure that water will not go into the neighboring properties. We have to have these changes
Got it.
approved in order to assure that.
Yes.
And in order to meet Tier 3 requirements.
It actually, this changed before these were placed because the defining factor was the Tier 3.
I have another question.
Yes,
How long ago was this project started?
it was a year ago.
Yeah, like a year ago. Because we're just having to
Another
renew.
question. I have a question to people in the audience. Was there ever any flooding, maybe not Mr. Sorensen, but any flooding on your property prior to the start of this project?
We've owned our property for 9 years. There's never been any water problem on the lower portion of the property.
And you've, Mr. Sorensen, you've only owned the property, what, for a year and a half? Or?
2 years. We've gone through 2 winter events, and I know it's actually flooded our neighbor, the Jefficas to the south.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Oh, I said we've been there for 2 years.
Yes.
2 winter events. The first one was before the project. Never had any problems. The second one was a nightmare.
Okay. I'll hold on to my comments.
Okay.
That's the question.
All right. Okay, I think I've gotten my questions answered. One more. Did you have to have a hydrologist hired to do the?
So we did the hydrology calcs as part of the Tier 3 requirements.
Yeah, so
They're all in here.
So you had to hire an independent consultant
Absolutely.
to design.
We had to go to Creeks for the original one.
Okay. All right, thank you. So got my questions answered. Anyone else? Then we will go into comments. Do you have any comments, Joe?
Yes, I have comments.
Okay.
I'm going to be a Fred.
Oh, that's frightening. Just say what you have to say.
This board is not here, I mean, granted, we will listen to you, but this board is not here to feel sorry for such a big project that you've taken on and learning curve. And I want all 3 of you to listen to me. It's a big project, and it's a project that has to be done by code to our approval and the building department's approval. And it has not been done that way. And you are begging us to, if I go over my head, scream at me, Lisa.
Well,
Let me finish.
Make it.
Okay. You're begging us to.
Really, please.
It's just
Not
just
personal. We're
yeah.
just
No, I'm not making it personal. I'm not making it personal. I'm just. I think some code requirement or some building department things that have done wrong here, and granted you would like to have these feeding stations, but this board is going to do it in our order, and the building department will do it in their order, however, whatever they do, but we have to do what we do, which is aesthetic. And I see a lot of things here that are not aesthetically correct with what we approved a year ago when this project was started, prior to the project was started. And you're asking this board to approve aesthetically things, or things that will change the aesthetic of the property based on what your neighbors look at and based on what we approved previously. I'm not here to stop the project. I am here to help you solve the project, or we are.
Well, what's your point?
Point is, unless we make some drastic decisions, this board we can just keep coming back and forth, because we don't have the approval. We don't have the approval to. Yes, we do.
We have the purview
Okay.
to decide whether this is proceed with it or to stop it, I believe.
Yes, the items that are listed in bold under the project description are the items that are coming to you today. So they were not part of the original approval. They're revisions, which they're asking for your approval of today. So that's what your purview is, the aesthetic appropriateness of those changes.
Okay, I apologize. I have a hard time.
Well, do you want to think about it a little bit more? Or?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'll think about it a little bit more. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, thanks. I just have a question. So since we're approving aesthetic things here, what is your proposed fence going to look like that's going to shelter these from the neighbors?
We're not proposing a fence at this time. We'd like to just finish the grading so we can concentrate on doing, but go ahead, Linda.
Do you, I'm not sure what you're asking. Do you mean right here along the property line?
Right. Well, because that's one of the things that we're supposed to be approving today is fencing.
This fencing right here.
Oh, the fencing?
The fencing is
the 15 feet interior fencing. You have a picture of it?
Oh, around the corrals?
Yeah, it keeps the horses 15 feet away from the property line. It's the corral fencing. It's not, there's already fencing
like
up
this.
around the property.
Okay, all right, so it's not fencing that is shielding your neighbors from looking into this? Okay.
The fence is already up on all sides, and the privacy screen that Jens put up is on his side.
Okay.
So,
And are you proposing any sort of privacy fencing along that side?
we want the most privacy that we can have, and we know the neighbors want privacy. So right now, we are not here to propose fencing. If that's going to be a stipulation of the approval to provide that, this neighbor has already planted privet, I believe, all along his euphorbia, all the way up here, and you can probably see that on the photos. That will be a solid hedge across here, and there will be, we want privacy. We're not trying to.
plant along here too.
Okay, so the fencing that you're requesting approval is this pasture fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Pasture fence.
Okay.
Where are the two storage tanks?
They're underground.
Oh, okay, so we don't
There's
even
one
see
here,
it.
and
Okay.
there's one, this is the other one here, and they're.
You're asking for those. Okay.
Yes, they're underground.
And the feeding stations, as I've explained, look like this.
Yeah, I know.
Very
I
simple
heard you.
structure.
Very simple
Yeah.
feeding stations.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where your downhill neighbor put temporary fencing, do you plan to put landscape screening? That would be an aesthetic issue to me. That seemed like you could give back major landscape screening on all sides. And will there be room if there's a swale for planting is my question, because it's pretty tight.
Yes, but we need to finish the grading before we can introduce those other plantings. But yes.
Finish the
we need to finish the grading and all of the Tier 3 BMPs.
We have to put the swales in.
And put everything in before we can put screening on the property line. But yes, we absolutely can do dense screening on the property line.
Well, I guess that follows up with my question is, why couldn't you have a landscape plan showing what it would look like after it was all put in place?
We can certainly do that. We can provide
Okay,
more, if
okay.
you want a hedge drawn on
Yeah.
Margie Grace's landscape plan, we can certainly add that.
Well, based on the, okay,
Yeah.
got it, thank you.
Your neighbor would probably appreciate
Yeah,
knowing that.
we could, anyone else have any is this helping you?
No, I don't feel that I have the competence to make any comment or to vote on anything.
Okay.
I don't
all
see
right.
anything, I'll abstain. I don't see anything design related here, and
Okay.
I went out, so just a comment. I went out and drove to the property today, and it's a huge property, and there's huge construction going on there. I mean, giant bulldozers, and I mean, I know it's there's some major work going on here, and I was a little shocked to see construction going on when, of these little feeding stations when we haven't permitted it, we hadn't approved it yet. So I was a little shocked to see that work going on when it was coming to us today. So
Okay.
It was
I have a
done a long
question.
time ago. Not that
Yeah.
I'm allowed to talk, but that was done when the previous general contractor was working. He's no longer a part of the project. As soon as I found out what was going on, I said, we have to get approval for these things. And
So I have some comments. I think there needs to be a little better communication between your neighbors and you. And I think part of the problem was when you were doing this, this sort of, you kind of were learning as you were doing it, I would say, in terms of the feeding stations. I don't feel comfortable going forward until you'd have to have a complete landscape plan, primarily to satisfy your neighbors, to know that, they're being taken care of. The reason I brought up the issue about the Tier 3 was that, and I think part of the reason why you're seeing so much grading, and this is what I'm feeling, is because of the requirement for all the retention that you have to, please, hold on. That's probably part of the reason why you're seeing so much grading and tearing up is because you have to create a property where the water no longer floods the adjacent properties. So part of this is going to be a good neighbor policy in terms of showing your landscaping and how you're making a good effort to not have your neighbors be flooded. It's just kind of the name of the game at the moment. And the fact that you only have 5 horses, I think, that kind of clarifies that issue. I think for the feeding station, to me, and this is just my observation, is it's not that complicated of a building. It also looks like something, granted at the moment it looks pretty stark and intrusive, but once the construction is complete and the landscaping is in place, it'll kind of disappear. And I think that's the goal for you. I think that's the goal for the neighbors, to make sure that none of this is kind of intruding on their view space. As far as the horses go, as far as what she does here, she has a legal right to do that. I mean, she's already gone through the city as far as those processes go. So that is not up for discussion. What is up for discussion is to making sure that these buildings that you've built that aesthetically are camouflaged or located in a way that they don't intrude into neighbors. And like I said, the neighbors need to understand that the Tier 3 requires an extraordinary amount of design and calculations for a storm event. So technically or theoretically, once you're done here, this property is going to not flood your neighbor's property ever again. I mean, that's the whole design of Tier 3 is to retain water to refill our aquifers. So, I mean, that's really my comments. So have you? Yep.
I would like, before I approve it, I would like to see a finished project on paper in front of us.
Yeah,
Can that go in the motion? Can we?
yeah.
I'm
Well,
not- I'm not sure with that.
they're just up for comments.
No.
So I can clarify for the board.
Oh,
They're
what?
Got to get,
If I can clarify what they're here for,
Yeah,
you can
okay.
do a couple things today.
Yes,
You can either approve the project as they've presented. If you don't feel comfortable with what they presented, you can request that they come back with additional information. You can put a condition on the project that they install hedging or whatever plant material you think is appropriate. So you have a couple options. You don't have to do something today, but if you're comfortable with it as it's presented, that's an option.
I thought that was, isn't that
That's-
what I just said?
Not really, but,
In a one whole nutshell?
well, anyway, so does someone want to make a motion? Thank you, Katie, for clarifying. Anyway,
I'll make a motion.
okay.
I move that this project come back in front of the full board
Okay,
with, I'll start listing them based on it, with,
you want a complete landscape plan?
no.
So just to clarify, you've already approved a landscape plan, so if you're requesting changes to that, be specific about
Yeah, yeah.
what you'd like to see them return with, just so it's clear for the applicant.
Joe, if you're
I'd
not,
like it to come back to the full board with whatever is right here in bold, right there, showing on that plan
here's this.
Landscape screening?
Yeah, you're,
Just to clarify, they have shown on the plan what's in bold. That's already shown on the plan, so
someone make a motion that's clear and succinct here, please. You're kind of,
But just to clarify, the items in bold are what's shown on that plan presented today. So if you would like something in addition, then you could put that into the motion. If you feel like you need more information, be specific about what you need, because what's in bold is already included on that plan as part of their presentation today.
Right, Mr. Vice Chair, would you please make a motion?
all right, I want to make a motion that we'd like you to return to the full board with the following comments. Let me, clarification or better landscape of the screening of the south and west side properties of how you're going to screen the properties on those particular areas near the property line. I also think there should be some good neighbor guidelines, follow through with your neighbors to communicate with them exactly what happens when you complete your landscape plans and the hydrology or the scope of the grading and Tier 3 management plan, so that they have a clear understanding that what you're doing should be preventing flooding into the adjacent properties. And I would like to say that we feel that the unpermitted feeding station is such that once the landscaping is properly matured and covering the said property, that it shouldn't be making a visual impact to the adjacent properties. And that's my motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Okay, if there's no second, it fails, someone's going to have to make a new motion.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I'm still not satisfied that the current grading and the finished floor of the proposed slabs are in compliance with what's been approved. How do we know this?
That's correct, because it's revised from what was originally approved. So they're coming in today for revisions to that plan. So that's what's being presented to you today. It's not the same as the original plan. They're asking for changes to it.
The Tier 3 is, see, the thing is, it's the strictest requirement in terms of storm management. So they can't get a permit for this without being approved with the Tier 3. So as far as storm management, it's, you know, it's...
And I think, or correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant said they've had to make changes to the Tier 3 to accommodate those changes.
More as an aesthetic comment that if it's sticking up higher in the air.
Well, did you see the floor?
Yeah.
It's 9 feet 6 inches. This is the elevation.
We had a comment from Mr.
Oh,
Sorensen that he thought they were going to be two-story.
So, all right, so I get it. I get your feelings. You need to clarify exactly, then what is it you want? Do you want to make a motion saying to lower it? What is it you're saying?
Well, as long as it's confirmed that that finished floor elevation is what's been approved by the grading inspector, right? Can you clarify that?
The civil engineer is aware of and has redesigned the tier 3 stormwater BMPs per this new feeding station plan. And that will be required, and it has to go back through creeks for approval.
Okay, I get that.
The upper, it is on a little slope, as you can see. So the upper end of it is right at grade. This will be about a 3-foot, 30-inch to 3-foot retaining wall or something on this end, and then a 2-to-1 slope down. So it won't be sticking up out of the ground. It's just going to be a slow. You will not. It's
Well,
just
see,
going to
this
be.
is, I think that we want. I guess we would show it landscaping to camouflage that, so that it minimizes the impact visually.
This is what the existing. I mean, we can add more to the existing hedge that's been planted. I'm a little concerned that right at the property line, if we plant another hedge right on our side of what the neighbor has already planted, if their planting is from what I understand, may be invasive. So the root system, if there's already a hedge planted from here to here by Mr. and Mrs. West, that perhaps another hedge is not going to be a good thing necessarily. Linda would like to work things out with the neighbor, and she's been trying to.
A little section through that, so we can add, because it's falling off so steeply there, and it's hard to, if you could do a little section at that corner, that would be illustrative.
So you would like to amend the motion and add a section?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we need to make the motion again. The motion failed, so.
I'll attempt a motion.
Okay.
That the Single Family Design Board would like you to return to us with a landscape plan showing screening on the
South and west.
South and west property lines, and a section where the feeding station to is that north?
The west side, on the west property line.
A longitudinal building section through the feeding station.
Yes. Thank you. And that you return to us.
The full board.
Full board.
Okay, that's the motion.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, we second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? You aye or no?
No.
So we have 3 ayes and 1 no and 1 abstention. So there's
It
not.
passes.
It what?
It passes.
Oh,
We
it
have
passes,
3 for
okay.
the motion, 1 abstention, 1 opposed.
1 opposed. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, please work with the neighbors.
I'd like to make some comments before we close this.
Or what?
I think we already.
We're done.
The motion's passed, but if you want to make a comment.
Huh?
The motion's passed, but if you want to make a comment.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
This is potentially what we've been trying to avoid, and that's, which I agree with Fred Sweeney, has trying to avoid of our city approving things or allowing things to be built and continued without approval. And we are now approving something that has all the potentials of being changed with our approval. And I don't agree with it. And
We have no intention of if you don't mind me saying, we have no intention of changing the approval. We just want to get approval so we can build it exactly the way we've drawn it. And we haven't built it. We've just formed the slab, which is a no-no, and we apologize for that.
This board is, sorry, I won't say that. I won't make it.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I know what you're saying, but it's one of these situations where I have to look at the size, bulk, and scale and the appropriateness and the visual impact it has on the street. And yes, they should have not done that, but they did. So in my case, I feel comfortable approving it, even though what you're saying is a valid point. Because that's exactly how I felt the last time this came up with Fred. And if you recall, he voted no and I voted yes. So, thank you. Okay. Okay, it's for, so our next project is, do we need to take a 5-minute break? Are you guys okay? And we can, I'm going to call a 5-minute break, and we'll adjourn at 4:43. No, 4:45. Comments from the city, and there's some certain things I want to underscore and make clear with this board. And in particular, I'd like to look at the project compatibility analysis, and I'd like you all to study that very carefully, because that's kind of what we're here for. And what's happening, and this is, and I know Fred talked about us setting up a training session for our board, so we want to make sure that we don't make personal comments. We want to avoid comments like I feel, I like, I dislike. What we're here for is to look at the size, bulk, and scale and the compatibility of the style of the architecture and the existing fabric of the neighborhood. So this is, because this is very important. People put a lot of money into this, and we want to make sure that we just state clearly what we're saying and what we're doing and what we're expressing, and rationalizing why we say what we say in terms of, especially, its sensitivity to adjacent landmarks and historic resources. Is design of the project appropriately sensitive to adjacent federal, state, or city landmarks or other nearby designated historic resources? I mean, those are very clear, exactly kind of what our purview is on this board. So if you kind of stick to that, now if you feel uncomfortable, then you just say, I abstain from, voting, and leave it at that. So, which is appropriate. But it's also important to exchange ideas and what you feel about certain things. I definitely have opinions about architecture. We all have opinions about architecture, but in this particular case, it's not about our opinions so much as the appropriateness to the existing fabric of the neighborhood, and does it, support and enhance and empower the quality of being in the city of Santa Barbara. So that's all I have to say.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. That
Now,
was good.
thank you. So, Bill,
Yes.
please introduce yourself and tell us your project.
Yes, we're here, 1534 La Cornilla. I'm Bill Wolf with Pacific Architects.
Chuck McClure, landscape architect.
I'm Layla Khashoggi, owner.
Thank you.
So we've
Sorry,
been in-
Jan has the minutes of the last.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
let's help
Please
Janet.
read
Will
those.
still
Right,
have-
so
thank you.
at the last meeting, this was continued indefinitely to full board with the following comments. Study the front entry porch. Provide a full landscape plan, including exterior lighting details. Reconsider a paint color other than dark gray color. Reconsider the skylight and location. Action made by James, seconded by Ziegler. Motion carried.
Great, thank you.
Miller was absent.
Oh, all right. So we'll refresh your memory, Brian.
All right.
It's a single-story existing home on a property up on La Cornilla. It's got views down into the valley there below, across over to Miramonte on the other side. These are some of the neighbor houses. We've got a pink one and a blue one and a white one, and we've got a bunch of colors and sizes. They're single and two-story houses all scattered throughout that neighborhood. I'm going to move this to the side. You can refer to that later if we need to. We've developed it pretty well. That's the existing home right there. It's got a driveway that comes down into a court and pulls into a garage as it is there now. We're going to keep that orientation. We're going to keep the driveway and the courtyard, the drive, so we can get in and out. But we're going to actually scoot the garage over, and we're going to add a little bit, and we're going to add a little bit, we're going to add a little bit. So we're keeping within all the setbacks. We're not asking for any modifications. This is kind of the neighborhood plan showing what's going on. Again, the driveway comes down. So La Cornea comes to a cul-de-sac and then shoots off and goes down to Harbor Hills and views and all that. So again, the little areas that are added, this portion, and this portion. I believe we're like 80% FAR or something like that. I've forgotten what our number is, but we're under the allowable substantially. We're going to add a little stairway, and I'll let Chuck explain some of that. That's going to come down right now. The only way to get from the street to the house is down the driveway, so we're going to create a little stairway. We're going to also add a spa and a little deck. I'll let Chuck talk you through that. And this is a little garden area. You'll see it's in the setback, but it's actually a little water feature thing that we've got. We've got some new site walls coming in that we're going to add, and a chain link fence that's going to go down the hillside again to accomplish our spa requirements for pool fencing. So to make a long story short, the last time we were here, the footprint was pretty much the same. Fred had some comments about the entry, which we've addressed, and I'll show you those. This is our demo plan. We're gutting the inside pretty substantially. One of the neighbors is here as well, and we'll talk. Their concern is the spa equipment. We have spa equipment on the side of the house. We're somewhat limited into where it can go, and I can show that to you later. But we're going to select, obviously, something as quiet as we can as a pump, and as quiet as we can for the jets. And on top of which, we're going to add a CMU site wall, 6 feet, but could go up to 8 feet if that works better for them. And that's on the side property, and that's what this stuff is over here on this side. And they're in this property over here, and they'll come and talk to you about it. So again, footprint's pretty much the same as what we presented last time. What we did was I dropped the roof. I'm going to show you the pretty picture version first, because I always like showing those.
We like pictures.
I like the pictures, the pretty pictures. Okay, there's that. So what we did was we dropped this entry. We had it much taller. It was probably another 3 or 4 feet taller right here. We dropped it down to scale. His concern was that the height of it was just overwhelming. And again, we're trying to keep sort of that cottage kind of feel to it, Craftsman. We've added some louvered, shuttered awnings out there that are to really create privacy, because the street is way above the house, and so you can really look down into the home. And so we wanted to create these louvered awning covers. And I'll come back as I've got a picture that I illustrated of that from elevation. Again, the back hasn't changed much. We did add in 2 places. I don't remember if we had this before, but here we added a little arbor trellis off the back over the doors, and we did it over the garage door as well. The fireplace masonry we changed. We're going to do kind of a combination of sort of a brick, different facings of brick, some split face, some smooth, and in different textures and colors as well. And just to kind of give you a sort of a theme of what that's going to look like in the colors, that's it there. I'll throw one of these over here. Is it? And so we've got a combination of asphalt shingle roof. We're going to do a cementitious siding. It'll be painted kind of a dark gray. This is an example of what we're trying to achieve there. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. It's been done before. And then these shutters will be an Ipe material, so that'll be kind of cool. And then we've got copper roof over the entry.
Wow.
Yeah, and copper caps. And then this is that masonry I'm talking to you about. It's a combination of different textures and finishes and sizes too. So They're a little oversized and some are a little narrower. This is a little larger than a brick size. Asphalt shingle, copper, the colors. The trim of the window is the factory trim that comes from Marvin. It's a ebony, which is black. And then that's the Ipe sample there. And this is just to kind of give a reference of the neighborhood. There's us. Let's see, this house is, this one's pink, that one's blue, this one's blue, and when I say pink, I mean pretty pink. And so what we're trying to do is, and this is a shot from across the valley there from roughly Miramonte, looking back, and you can see this is an east-facing kind of sun morning. It's going to go away in the dark there. It's not going to stand out like a bright white castle on the top of the hill.
Are these trees higher?
The trees are down below in the grade, and Chuck's got some landscaping now that he'll show you. And again, we're going to keep all that vegetation down below as well, so it's nothing unusual there. And then kind of a wood stain, nice garage door, because you see it. Okay, so that's for the pretty pictures. We've got, let me just shove those over there. And we've got all the detailed roof. We've got our gutter layouts. There's the mechanical versions of the exterior elevations, same as what you saw without all the notes. Sections, we developed it pretty extensively. Window and door schedules. We're going to use Marvin. We have metal clad. All the details. Stop me if you want me to go slower. Trims. We're going to use hardy material on the outside. And we've got trim moldings. There's our masonry details, all the molding. So this is kind of the crown up at the top.
That's quite fabulous.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a neat detail there at the top. This is the bracket at the little arbors that go in the garage and at the back. This is a little detail of the vent.
Are you using Icynene as the?
Icynene will be the preferred insulation. Okay. Flat glass skylights. I think when we had talked to Fred about that originally and the rest of the board, I think it was back at the kitchen there. Was that where the issue was? I forget exactly where the skylights were that he was questioning.
Yeah, none of the skylights actually face any neighbors.
It says reconsider the skylight location. That's what we got on our
Yeah,
minutes.
and I think it might have been the entry, and we've removed one there.
Right.
And
Do you guys
so
recall?
I remember him saying it, but I don't remember
Yeah, I
where
don't
it
know.
was.
There's a detail for the awning. We can look at the roof plan if you want. And then our light fixture. So we do have some exterior light fixtures. We're going to have a wall-mounted and a pendant. We'll do the wall-mounted here, and you see them marked there, and we're going to do a pendant in the entry. We might, if it's okay, hang one over the garage in that little trellis there, just to kind of do a little something there. And maybe something out here, I don't know. I can decide, but that's the fixture there.
What's the height of the garage door?
Remember, it was wrong on when we came the first time. It was wrong, and they noted. They said this looks really low, and then when you put a scale on, you said, "Oh, that's not right."
It's supposed to be 8 foot, right?
Right, and it wasn't.
Okay. It's 8 foot. She caught me again. Blast it. And here's the landscape.
Okay, so here we are. This is the landscape site plan. We will keep the existing concrete coming down, and then we go to a paver, and then we have a concrete that's a differing color so that pedestrian can make their way to the front door. And then we've got, we have a civil doing all our stormwater planning and an on-site retention, so I'm not talking about that. But it's all taken care of. So this is kind of the hardscape of it all.
That plan is in here, by the way.
Okay.
I can show that too if you want to see it.
And then planting, it all conforms with the drought tolerant stuff. This is all the existing things on the hillside, so no changes down there except for we're going to remove some of the offending plants, some of these pompous grasses and the
Poison oak.
the offending plant, so we'll get that cleaned up. And then there's not a ton of landscape. We're gonna do some screening along here. And then we've got a little bit of screen hedge along here because you do peer down into this pretty significantly. There's a little 42-inch masonry wall, and there'll be a pedestrian gate. And then there's a little bit of downlighting. It looks like a lot, but this is behind some plant material. So we've got 4 coming down the driveway, 4 or 3 along a little bit to the front door, and then we take a pedestrian down safely. And then if you notice, it's kind of interesting, with this kind of lighting, if you put them above, that creates a heavy shadow. So that's kind of how that's supposed to be done, and then just a little bit more, no uplighting. And then there's our gate at the top of the
Off the walk there before.
Yeah, at the street. So it's just 42 inches, and it's very simple, custom steel, and that's it.
And then just so you see it, we do have our civil engineering done, stormwater management plan.
What tier?
Tier 3.
Tier 3, wow.
Yeah. Say that again.
Everybody says wow.
I know.
Yeah, so
Nuts.
this is the erosion control plan. But that's the layout, so we've got a couple of catch basin areas where we're going to catch water and filter. And we're collecting all the storm water through downspouts and hard pipe and everything, and ending up back over here. We're also going to do a permeable paver in the driveway as well. So this driveway will stay the same. And there's all the detailing for it. Trench drain at the top where the driveway hits the pavers. So, yeah.
So I've quit. That's the end of your presentation?
Thank you very much. Amen.
What kicks in, remind me again, what kicks in at tier 3?
In the hillside, it's 500 square feet of new or replaced impervious surfaces.
Surfaces.
Yeah, so even if you are taking away paving, and if it's more than 500, you got to do tier 3. Okay. So that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we'll open it up to the floor now, and we've got some speaker slips. I've got 2 here. Did we get any letters or emails?
No written public comment.
Okay. So if you would like to free up a chair, I would Hans Meissner would like to come up and speak. Now, yes. Like to come up and, yes, please come up to one of these chairs. You have 2 minutes to speak. Yeah, sure. Just make sure you can have a microphone, because you are being recorded.
Okay. This is his house, by the way.
Okay, so yeah, state your name and you live there. Okay, great.
My name is Hans Meissner, and I live at 1542 La Coronia Drive, and next door to the project that is before you today. My main concern is that the pool equipment is right next to my bedroom window. And I have contemplated if the equipment is moved further down the property from its current proposed location, this might be better. However, I don't know if this equipment will fit in the 5-foot setback or not. I do know that allowances for encroachment are possible under the new zoning ordinance. As an engineer, I believe the best solution would be to move this equipment closer to the spa. My spa is a self-contained unit, and the equipment compartment is behind the spa, facing down the hill. Locating the equipment closer to the spa would also make it more energy efficient. When this project was before you, before it was agreed by previous architect, the spa equipment would be moved closer to the spa. I'm happy that the new plans are for a single-story house now. I look forward to my new neighbor.
Thank you very much. And we'll address your concern. Thank you. Kathy McCammon, would you like to come out and speak?
I was just here for backup.
Okay.
I will. I've talked to Layla and the landscape architect, and as Hans pointed out, there was that one issue. And I've also talked to staff about the possibility of going into encroaching into the setback.
You're referring to the pool equipment, right?
Yeah, the pool equipment. We talked about possibly moving it up here, but then this would still cause some noise because the sliding glass doors are here. And so I didn't know if it was possible to move it there, but apparently it is possible. But anyway, as Hans said, he would prefer to have it closer to the spa.
Okay, thank you.
So that's it?
All right, thank you very much. That's it for speaker slips. I think that's finished public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the board. So does the board have any questions? Jan, it looks like you have some questions. Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can you move the pool equipment?
Well, we have definitely, we've met with them and talked with them, and we've tried to figure out a best solution. We looked at this side of the property. The problem here is that this house is much higher than this, so if we try to screen it with any kind of sound wall, it would have to be 20 feet tall. If we put it down the hill, we're going to run into many issues, not only the fact that we were on a slope, now you're going to be seeing it from across the valley there. Even if we screen it with landscaping, we're going to have to do caissons and foundation work and probably a pump motor that'll probably be noisier because we're now below the spa. So that didn't sound like a good solution. This seemed like the only spot we had available without having to go into the setback, which we felt was getting closer to their house. So the two things that we're going to do, Lisa, is one is we're going to try and find as quiet a motor and spa equipment as we can, of course. And then there is an existing site wall that comes about to here. It's very light on this plan. That's an existing block site wall. We're going to add in addition to it another wall in front of it. So we're going to have actually 2 layers of block wall there, effectively about 16 inches of concrete masonry. And we could, in that section, if necessary, build it up as tall as 8 feet. So we're happy to do that and will if necessary. Of course, we're going to abide by the code requirement for under 54 decibels at the property line anyway. So we'll have that and the site wall. So I think that's our best solution.
Okay.
Is that spa on the same grade? It looks like that's all in backyard.
Yep,
right
same
out,
elevation.
Same
yeah.
elevation, right out the step and right out the back door right there?
Yeah, yeah, there's a little grade step up on this deck and then...
well, that's a deck that sets up there.
Yeah, this is what, 12
inches.
Yeah,
12.
And what's the lip of that?
24.
Yeah.
This is a built-in spa.
Yeah,
custom.
with a raised edge.
In the ground.
In the ground, yeah. Yep, yep.
They're I realize you probably want the motor away from the spa so you don't have to listen to the motor yourself.
I suppose that's part of it too, sure, and it's in our entertainment area as well. It's a necessary evil of spas, I guess. Equipment noise.
So a spa, basically in-ground spas, the equipment is not set next to it, so you don't put up with the noise when you're trying to enjoy the spa.
Right.
So you put it away from the...
Right.
And there is another, I understand that a lot of the noise has to do with the air intake, and it seems to me the air intake could be somewhere other than right there, you know.
Maybe we could do that, yeah. We haven't worked with the pool, we haven't gotten the pool contractor yet, but we're gonna, Layla's on top of wanting to get this resolved. She doesn't want to be a bad
Yeah,
neighbor.
I don't. I mean, we want to do
Absolutely,
everything
whatever.
Sure.
we can here. We're also facing, trying to fix in this area, we will most likely need to make much of this pervious according to Tier 3 requirements.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Like
so this side
gravel.
yard right here, so it's
Oh.
going to probably have to be entirely pervious, along
Okay.
with these paver areas and along with a large area over here
Yep.
as well. So we're also, I'm not sure how much latitude we're going to have in terms of being able to do that, but we're still working on the final placement of those pervious
How big
pits.
is this area that have to have for equipment for a spa?
Oh, it's very small these days.
It's like 3 by 6 or
Yeah,
something like
pretty
that.
small.
3 by
Uh-huh.
6.
It can
Yeah,
fit in this,
small.
it can
Yeah.
fit in
Well,
this little
yeah.
setback area.
Well, you know, he thinks things are small.
3 by 6 is big.
Well, not a 9,000 or 12,000 square foot lot, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, because you have to have access around most of it, heater,
It's just a
filter,
heater and a filter. you
and
know.
a pump motor, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's right, 3 components.
Yeah,
And it's not a swimming pool, it's a spa, so everything's
Yeah.
shrunken.
yeah. Smaller,
That's the
but
bathroom, and
still.
that's the master bath in the corner right
This
there.
is here, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And
So
we're
it could go-
right.
It could go in the back of the house. No, don't put it too far away.
Oh, you mean like over here?
No, right there.
Oh, well,
It
that's
could go
a,
right out of
that's
the
a,
setback.
that's a window from our tub.
Well, you probably won't be using the spa when you're using the.
Oh, well,
master
it's not a
tub.
noise thing, it's a, you'll see it from the tub. That's the thing, it's right,
Okay,
I'll show you that.
you can convince me.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
see.
there you go. See, we got windows.
Those windows are low.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. You don't want to look at that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the unit will sit higher than the window, so we'll, in that particular area.
And it,
So we've got it over here out of the
oh yeah,
setback.
because
Yeah, the property line, or the
Hits to the
setback
corner
line
right
kind of
there.
goes, shoop. As a
Gotcha.
matter of fact,
Okay.
the existing house was encroaching, we've cut that off, so
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Okay.
Dan, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, and have you like researched like this little area? Because you have windows here, but that's, you know.
And it's an
Yeah.
aesthetic issue.
In the yard too, and in your
That's
view. and-
the master.
And then you're trying to screen it with sound walls there.
Yeah.
So, as well, actually, we can't because there's an easement that runs
That's right,
right
too.
along that.
Okay.
So we can't even put anything there, Joe, so our hands are tied for that reason too.
And it's a raised deck area where the spa is going?
Just 12 inches, yeah, it wouldn't be enough to set it
Not,
underneath.
it couldn't go
Good
underneath,
idea, yeah.
okay.
Question, reconsider the paint color other than a dark gray color. Did you change the colors, or is that still the same color?
Well, we only just talked to the board last time. Where'd that go? You have them here. Oh, yeah, you've got.
Here's the
red
color
Yeah.
one, and then,
We just said we were talking about gray. We didn't have any samples. And so, you know, maybe,
It said other than a dark gray color.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
going to request that the board reconsider that request. My goal, and I wish it were the goal of more people, is to make this house disappear from any vantage point where homes can be seen.
At night it will.
No, I mean just sort of disappear so that you're just not seeing structure after structure from a distance. And that's kind of what we see now on the hillsides in Santa Barbara, you know? We see just box after box of light-colored structures. I'm just of the mind where I'd really like it to disappear.
Go to San Clemente.
I know,
Anyway, okay.
Or Catalina.
yeah.
Yes, Lisa.
The example gray
Yeah.
and your color palette are very different. And I would be in support of the one that's in the photograph a lot more than I would the one that's on your rendering.
How about any of these? How about this gray up the top for the body? Still too dark for you? This is the
You wanna-
body, and that'd be the trim.
You want to hold out for a comment?
Oh,
Wait till
sorry.
we get done with, are we
I'm
done with
sorry.
questions? Yes.
That was a comment.
Yeah, now we're in the comment.
Question mark.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, yeah,
Go
can
on.
you see that? We can light it tones, you know.
Well, I like what you,
Yeah.
Well, this
Joan,
tends
you
to have a
said
bl-
that's the
it's got a blue
example.
hue to it. I like the blue. It's kind of
Well,
a blue
I
gray.
think that might be.
But that's the printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is very green, what you showed, there's green.
Well, yeah, and this print isn't even accurate.
Okay,
That's-
so, but
that's
this
more
is
accurate.
reality.
Those
It's
are
pretty,
really-
That's reality there, yeah. The top gray and the back big chip would be the trim, so the contrast there. And in daylight too, you sort of better, brighter.
Okay, I have a question. We're only here for comments only?
Landscaping
Why-
will pop.
So each project has to go through a series of plan checks. There's a preliminary plan check, and then there's a project design approval plan check. So before any project can get project design approval, it has to be cleared by zoning. So there's still just a couple remaining corrections that need to be addressed before action can be taken.
We actually made those corrections already, but you haven't seen them. yet,
Right.
so.
Okay, got it. So this is here for only comments only. If someone would like to make a motion, this is,
And just
Or-
if you're comfortable with it and you think it may be ready for approval and you don't need to see it necessarily at this board again, you can always forward it to consent too if you think that's appropriate.
I can make a motion.
okay.
So I would like to provide some positive comments to your design. I appreciate that you have really studied about how to keep the pool equipment as quiet as possible as to not annoy your neighbors. We appreciate the changes you've done to the entryway. I think that the awnings and the trellis over the garage are nice improvements to the design. I like the lighting that you've provided for the landscaping. The downlighting on the path, I think, is going to be a really good thing for neighbors and visitors when they're coming in the evening. I think that this could come back to consent.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. I forgot. I apologize that you seconded it. If the maker of the motion could add more clarification regarding the pool equipment and to assure that the noise will not be an issue with the neighbors, clearly have that documented so that the neighbors feel comfortable with that. The other question I have is, I spaced, there's something I saw real quick. This water feature, what is that?
So what it is if I was to sketch it, it's a short wall with 3 vessels that sit in it, like this. And there's a decorative glass behind it, and water just bubbles out of these and ends up in a Mexican pebble trough.
And that could be in the setback?
If it's not more than a foot high.
It's probably 18 inches. The vessels are
10 inches or less, and then certain mechanical equipment cannot be in the setback. So
So
that'll get routed through plan check and be
Okay.
addressed by staff.
You'd have to figure out.
All right.
Okay,
That's
so
what we
just
mounted
add
the
to
pump
the
remote with.
motion that, to make sure that the spa equipment is,
A better clarification and the sound doesn't affect the neighbors. And
okay.
yes,
can you add language that we find the landscape plan acceptable and approvable?
Yes. Add that the
That's what was
landscape plan
one of the
is
things it was here for?
acceptable.
And the lighting.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
put the lighting in.
is that your motion?
Yes, that's
Okay.
my motion.
That's the motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Okay.
All right,
Next
thank
step.
you. Yeah.
And I guess you're going back to consent.
So we'll go back.
Consent.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
Glad we-
Oh, boy.
You got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. You want the color, you want the color thing?
2736 El Prado Road. If you'd like to come forward. This is a new item. So this is a new item, so I'm going to speak in the record. The proposal of additions and alterations to an existing 945 square foot, one-story, single residential unit with a detached 296 square foot, one-car garage. Additions include an 884 square foot first floor addition, a basement addition of 1,001 square feet, and a 215 square foot accessory workshop located within the basement. The project scope includes demolition of existing one-car garage and constructing a new detached 265 square foot one-car garage. Other site improvements include the replacement of the existing composite shingle roof with a new terracotta tile roof, replacement of all windows, a driveway extension, new 38-inch garden walls, a new 6-foot tall fence along the interior property lines, new hardscape and landscape, a front porch extension, and permitting decks on site. Approximately 34 cubic yards of cut and 40 cubic yards of fill will occur outside of the main building footprint. The proposed total of 2,702 square feet of development on an 11,325 square foot lot is 70% of the maximum allowable floor to lot area ratio, FAR. Staff hearing officer review is requested for a performance standard permit for the proposed basement configuration. It's here for comments only. Project requires staff hearing officer review. Thank you. So if you can present yourself and tell us your project.
I'm Sue Stanikin. I'm one of the owners. This is Elaine Kalheimer, the other owner,
Okay.
and I'm also the architect.
Okay, let's get a speaker. They're both kind of migrated. Or one or the other. Okay. Hello. All right, thank you. So if you'd like to present your project.
So this is a little house, a little cottage that was built in 1950. Not really post-war. It kind of looks more like a 1940s house, and we're doing a large addition to the back. At the first floor level, the site slopes down in the back, so underneath the addition will be a walkout basement at this level. So the driveway is very narrow here. There's an existing garage that we're removing and moving further down. The parking wanted us to be able to turn the cars around, so it's far enough now so that we can have a little gravel area where you could turn your car around. We decided to stay with a kind of cottagey style and an update. We're changing the existing composite roof to a flat terracotta tile. We're replacing all the windows single glazed, and all the new windows will be the Colby Vistalux, which are kind of a more modern looking, but with horizontal buttons to sort of echo what's there now. And we're going to add some Ipe horizontal siding in some areas with a stucco base at the front and in the back.
You want to show the elevations?
Yeah.
It might be easier while you're describing it.
We wanted to have two materials just so that it would break up some of the large stucco areas that would otherwise be, especially on this side where you're going down along the driveway, it becomes a rather large facade. So we have the Ipe as a kind of upper story, a sort of traditional look to the house to kind of break up the facade a little bit. The front facade is pretty much similar to what it is now. We did pop out the front porch 18 inches to get a little more room. It's kind of nice out there. We have some chairs, and we wanted to be able to sit out there and have
Do you
a
have
little room.
the elevations of the existing building?
I have the photos. I don't have a print
Okay.
of the existing elevations.
Okay.
Which is kind of, this is it, really, what you would see. The junipers, the two junipers and the ceanothus that's overgrown are going to be removed. They're kind of overgrown. And we're going to put in a palo verde. And you tell me what's over here now.
I don't remember. But another arid plant.
Here, you tell me. And the front will have a succulent garden and with gravel mulch. And in the back, we're doing a little bit more drought tolerant, but a little bit more Mediterranean garden.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say, I think.
Okay, is that your landscape plan?
Yeah, well, it's not in the set, but it's sort of a draft of the landscape plan. which shows, it slopes down here, so we're going to add some rocks just to create some terracing and plant it with agaves and some sedum, and then the trees. And putting a hedge along here with the Texas sage. And then the new wing is kind of separated out a little from the old wing. It gives the room for the house to breathe a little. There's a little courtyard here that we're backfilling, so it'll be on the first floor level, kind of a little Japanese garden feel to it. But it's mainly gravel with some azaleas and heuchera and 2 little maples. So that's probably the highest water use area and a little water feature. And then as it steps down, there's a deck outside of the big great room that overlooks the backyard. And as you step down into the backyard level, there's a little potting porch back here, then a gravel path, and then various plantings, different.
California natives.
A lot of natives, and there's an olive tree, a big arbutus right here in the middle.
And this is sort of the bioswale.
Yeah, so this it's tier 2, and we're dealing it with a big bioswale that's at this level. So unit pavers here and here. We were wanting to do a Hollywood strip kind of feel here, just to break it up a little, with the sedum going along the side. And we were hoping to do that in concrete just because of the slope with brick. I mean, not brick, but the pavers would become borders to that. And I don't know if you have questions. What else you want?
If we can make sure we're talking into the mic, please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Show the elevations down the driveway. Oh, right there. No, that's the other side. Down the driveway. So the main house is basically right
This
there.
is the existing house.
And you're
Right
adding-
now, it's all stucco, so we're adding this connector, and then this is the great room.
And then this is the 1,000 square feet. That's the basement, which is on grade.
Yes,
Okay, which is down here.
yes. So when you get out to this level here, on this side and on this facade, your full walkout basement.
That's the 800 square feet up here.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is mainly a great room, and then the connector is a
Connector.
utility room and the stair.
So the stairs we see are going down. They're new stairs going down to the basement.
Basement.
Grade level. Big model.
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, since I'm not finding it, you're proposing a new deck off the basement room?
It's not really a deck, it's built on top of the basement level, so it's a terrace. It's a roof terrace.
A roof
basically, on the roof of the basement.
And will that serve as a place to, what's the surface?
It's going to be pavers, like porcelain pavers.
And there's no engineering or weight problems with?
No, it's just like a roof, similar. I mean, porcelain pavers are only 3/8 of an inch thick, so they're lighter than the terracotta roof tiles, but it's all part of the structural engineering.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What are these connectors here? This one's different than that one?
That's probably a misprint. What we want to do is a kind of custom steel base and cap for the posts so that it's not just a Simpson base and cap. We were going to do something a little bit more decorative. And I think I can, we haven't totally detailed those yet, but.
Yeah.
There's a larger picture of them.
Sorry, if we could please be sure to speak into the mic.
It's a knife plate, and then it has a top plate with a little piece. It's sort of kind of a 40s.
Do you have a specific or a detail where you got that from or were inspired by, or?
No. Can you speak to that?
I designed it.
Okay, all right.
I mean, if you look at, toasters from the 40s or something, you would see that.
Okay.
We just wanted something a little bit decorative. We wanted to bring this cottage-style architecture into today without changing it too much, but maybe having some fun little details.
Oh, that's what that sticks out to the north, south.
This is the street side.
Street's out there.
South is there.
So your deck, where's the
The
deck?
terrace is above this. This is the basement, and it's right there.
Why am I seeing it on the west elevation? I see something stuck out.
Let me check something real quick.
That's just a fence to our neighbor.
That's just a fence.
Yep.
All that's a fence, all right there. That building does stick out there, but that's just a fence right
Correct.
there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the courtyard has a privacy fence that's 6 feet tall with a stucco base to it, and then a horizontal ipe treatment above that, with the gate being fully ipe.
Gutters and downspouts? How are you going to?
We actually are showing minimal gutters and downspouts. Where's? Put that here. Our plan is, that's why we show this gravel here, that we would put a perforated drain underneath that and pipe it down to the bioswale. But we will be putting gutters in the courtyard and above the terrace, and those are all being daylighted down into the bioswale.
And exterior lighting, have you?
We don't have that.
We've started looking at it. We're picking out some dark sky kind of downlighting, path lighting, and there will be a few sconces at the porches, but it's not going to be excessive because we like to see the.
You need to show
Yes,
that.
we will.
And the gutters and downspouts.
Right.
Okay, did we go into comments yet? I don't even remember. Are we? Yeah, I think we're done with questions. We're going to go into comments.
Sorry. Did we open up the floor to public comment?
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Yeah, we didn't need, okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak about this project? Seeing none, did we get any emails or letters?
No written comment.
Okay, thank you. Bringing it back to the board. We completed our questions. I want to go into comments. Comments? So it's here for comments only. I have a couple comments. You didn't count the basement for FAR, because it was qualified as a basement. Is that correct?
50%. It was counted
got it.
50%
All right.
because of the perimeter, we're less than 50% daylighted.
Your window proportions here seem a little, I mean, I like the style, but like this window seems a little too large. And in particular, what sticks out for me is this. These look kind of, there should be kind of a balance here, like a little, scale it down a little bit so it kind of flows. The windows look too large for the building.
Do you think that if we have a transom there, it would make it more to scale? Because right now they're rather tall.
Well,
like it
I would
with
like
the
you to
light.
study this, because and I don't know how you feel about it, but these
it's
just look way
massive.
too big.
Mhm.
So if you can just kind of study that and bring it into scale, the building, like I said, the windows look too big for the size of the building.
Mhm.
So I think you need to study the scale for that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd like to see gutters and downspouts and your light fixtures be included. And that's, I think those are my only comments at the moment.
It's beneficial to us if you have existing.
Okay, yeah, I have
Existing.
them, and I don't know why I didn't. bring
Existing
them.
plans, you should include them. They don't have to be overly detailed, just show the outlines of the floor plans and
The floor
and the
plan I
elevation-
have
the
on
elevation.
here, it's just I did not bring the elevations.
Yeah, it's really great, like if you have the existing elevation and then the proposed right next to each other.
This is the existing
Yeah.
floor plan and showing what we're removing.
Why was the basement not included in the, or 50%?
50% was counted.
If the basement is basically not a basement, it's just the first floor. You call, correct me, you call it a basement, and it may be the basement of the existing house, but
It is considered a floor according to the zoning, but as
most
also.
of it is out of the ground. Most of it's just on slab, on
Per
slab.
the,
Sorry.
per the definition in the zoning, if you have less than 50% of your total perimeter with less than 4 feet from the ceiling in the basement to grade, then you can count 50% for FAR. And we do comply with that. I have a diagram if you want to see
No, that's
that.
okay. No, we're here to take your word for it. Yeah.
And what about colors? You're a color board. You said you're going to replace the roof with tile, with red tile? Okay.
Yeah, the roof is a flat tile. Is it the Cambridge?
Yeah, that's the one.
It'll be the red color. Then we have the wood trims are going to have a green, and we picked out the stucco as this color, of a taupey color. And the Ipe is Ipe. It will gray out over time.
Is that the siding that you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the color of the Colby windows. So the palette is basically the wood tones, and this is sort of in that range, and then the greens.
I like it. Yeah.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay, if there's no further comments, if someone would like to make a motion.
The board would like to give this project positive comments, and you can return to consent.
Are you forwarding it to the staff hearing officer?
Sorry, yes.
Okay.
To be continued on to the staff hearing officer with following comments, that we would like you to show us a study of the scale of the windows on the east elevation, possibly reduce them or make them more proportional to the rest of the windows in the building. Return with gutters and downspout locations, light fixture cut sheets, and if you wanted to show existing and proposed elevations on the same sheets, that's very illustrative. But overall, we have positive comments about this project.
And if you could comment specifically on the portion that would need to go to the staff hearing officer, so the size, bulk, and scale of the basement
Oh,
configuration?
yes, and the size, bulk, and scale of the basement addition and the roof terrace, we find acceptable.
And you wanted to forward it to consent when it returns?
I'd like to, I think,
Full board?
Yeah.
Okay. Return.
Any comment about the landscaping?
Yeah, and the landscaping, it looks good.
Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. See you again.
Yep, thank you.
If you'd like to take the other two sets,
Sure.
and the
take this one?
I don't know, we get two of them, is that the other one?
You can keep the other two, Seth, otherwise I'll recycle it.
Okay, 3241 Lucinda Lane. Would you like to come forward? Okay, this is a new item, so I will read into the record. Proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 2,100 square foot, two-story single residential unit with a detached 346 square foot two-car garage. The proposal includes a second-story addition of 541 square feet and a new 96 square foot second-story deck. The proposed total of 2,641 square feet of development on a 6,200 square foot lot is 97% of the maximum allowable floor to lot area ratio. It is here for comments only. Project requires environmental assessment. So, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Todd Stockwell. I'm designer for the owner, Christopher Knapp.
Christopher Knapp, I'm the owner.
Okay.
And yeah, I can describe the project here. We propose to add the 541 square feet in the form of a master suite and master bathroom with a walk-in closet on the second level, the existing, added to the second level of the existing residence, not changing the footprint of the existing residence in any way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, no changes to landscape, no changes to the material and color scheme of the project. It's all just encapsulated in an area where actually there's already a gable roof at that point that gets up to within 7 feet of the max of the overall height of the addition. I've got elevations, photographs, and elevations of
Okay.
everything here. So we can go through here and see that this is the front elevation of the house. The addition is tucked behind this second story. So as you go around, let's see, it's hard to get my bearings. So here's the the approximate location of the addition right here.
Okay.
On top of that.
It's on top of an already existing roof element, and there's a fireplace there that we would intend to continue up and have that be part of the terrace on the roof. Here's the existing with the new. So the ground level existing doesn't change. Second level, this is what's there. It's a very narrow, hard to use square footage. And this is what we intend to add, which is master bath, small office, master bedroom. This is where the little terrace is. And the master bath has a walk-in toilet cab and a shower closet here.
What's that?
That's a laundry space that's actually, we plan to access from the hallway.
The current laundry is in the garage.
We haven't reworked
Yeah,
completely.
There's no
but-
doors. This is Lao.
Well, actually,
The Lao room.
actually, the graphics on this is SketchUp, so it's quick graphics, and it's supposed to be in color anyways, but I printed it black and white.
And these are closets, right?
Yes.
I'm going to a SketchUp seminar. I'm just like, okay.
You can draw, trust me, you can draw everything in SketchUp. It's just how much time do you want to spend on the interior design
Okay.
portion of it relative to, I know you guys are more interested in the exterior, so kind of that's what we put together here. So again, these are down and dirty. Shows here's the existing. Here's the existing with the proposed.
Okay.
Here's the existing. The existing with the proposed north elevation.
Street comes around.
Yeah, I have a corner lot.
The street comes around this way. That's correct. There's some perspectives in here, so we'll get to those. This is the front elevation. Basically, the only change to this elevation is we're going to propose to possibly put a little Juliet pop out on that element. And otherwise, there's no change to the front elevation. The deck's already permitted, and I made a mistake of leaving it off the existing. It's existing, and it's already permitted.
Okay.
It's already there, so good catch. And then this is the west elevation. Here shows the existing roof line here, and this is how it changes. Well, there's no addition to there's no square footage or footprint addition to the shape of the house. It's all just above existing living room, ground level square footage. And then here's some perspectives of the proposed from all the different angles. Here's the entry. Here's shows how it's the additions. I pulled the exterior walls of the addition 2 feet in on either side so that it kind of tucks around the corner of the existing elements. I'm proposing to add these brackets that aren't here now to push it in more of kind of a craftsman direction, give it a little more flavor.
Can you tell me what this little thing is?
That's a little sloped roof, and from that angle, it's hard to tell because you're kind of above.
Looks more like
You're
an
kind
ice
of up
cream
high,
sandwich,
but
doesn't
that's a sloped roof. That's a little bit of a sloped roof right there. That's a piece of the existing roof, actually.
Oh, this is here.
Yeah, that if you would continue that out and then follow that straight up to a gable end on this elevation, then that's the eave of that roof as it comes out. So obviously a lot of detailing to do, finer detailing, but this is just, again, for your comments and to see if it's something that... So I did the shadow studies. Barely even gets outside of the property line at this, as I think that's the equinox. And then on this, at this solstice, comes out into the street, so there's no neighbors really affected by the addition. This is the roof plan of the addition.
Okay.
And then here again, we have, this is the existing, and this is how it would look. And actually, we're going to maintain this, is that a bottlebrush tree or pepper tree? Olive?
I thought it was a pepper tree.
Looks like pepper to
but
me.
It does. We're going to maintain that. So that's actually going to cover up a portion of this elevation as well. Here as well, you can see the little from the street corner. This is really the only 2 places where you can actually see the addition.
What's this, Kyler
Yes, that's Kyler Ellis. And you're looking up at it here. And some of these trees, I didn't go ahead and Photoshop the tree back in, but that gets obscured by trees that are in front of it as well.
Some huge pine trees.
Yeah, yeah, and he intends to keep all of his landscape the way that it is, and he's got some nice landscaping elements around the house. So.
I basically redid all the landscaping about a year ago to low to no water, all drip system.
Great.
So that's the project. It's basically just a addition onto the second floor.
All right.
And we're interested to see what you think.
Okay. I'd like to open the floor. We have a speaker slip. Joanne Yordy. I'm going to open up, and if you'd like to take a seat, and you have 2 minutes.
So I am the neighbor on Calle Lorales, right next door.
Okay.
On the corner?
Yes, on the corner.
Okay.
And my husband and I came to kind of get a better understanding of it
Yeah,
all.
sure.
And I think his concern, they're more just like basic concerns about like privacy, or he wanted to better understand where his balcony was. But now that we know the pepper tree is going to still be there, I mean, not that we have anything right there for them to see, but he was concerned about just like the backyard privacy. And then he had a question if we were in the future to add a second story on our house, how that would impact or affect
So your
this
house
project.
is this house right
Yes.
here?
Right on the corner of Lucinda and
Yes, right next door.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
correct.
Okay.
But I mean, for the most part, I was just here to get a better understanding of the project.
Well, appreciate your comment. Thank you.
But that was it.
All right.
I mean,
Did we get any emails or letters?
No written public comment.
No comment. Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions.
I have a question.
Yes, Jan.
So this is probably for Katie. Why does it need an environmental assessment?
So every project that undergoes every project that undergoes discretionary review has to have an environmental assessment. Most projects qualify for a CEQA exemption. There's various exemptions. That means the project is exempt from further environmental review. So it's just a standard part of the process that each project undergoes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the entry is right from Lucinda, and it's against the flat wall, right?
That's correct.
And
And
that,
it was a two-story facade.
and so that's not going to change at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, except for the,
Except
maybe
for
a Juliet.
the little Juliet
Yeah.
balcony. I stand corrected. There's a little Juliet balcony that we may add to the second level.
Uh-huh. I'm trying to see where that is. Okay.
Right here. This little Juliet.
Okay.
And then we may do another little element there, a lighting element at the doorway, once we get into adding brackets and things.
Does this mean all these little window box things are going to be, aren't there window boxes where this?
Those are going to remain. The one that's there with the Juliet goes in will be removed. The others will remain. Joe, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Straightforward.
Hearing no questions, we'll go into comments. Does anyone have any comments? If no one has any comments, I have a comment. We have a requirement that balconies, exterior balconies, be at least 15 feet from the property line as a recommendation for privacy issues. I don't know. And your neighbor brought it up, so.
Okay.
Let's see. Is this the proposed floor plan? Where's your deck? Okay. What is the dimension of your deck? Is it?
I think it's 6 by.
I have 17 or 18
6 by 17.
So it's 6 feet. So it's a relatively small deck.
It
now,
is.
How close is it to the property line?
It's 11 feet 6 inches. This is the deck right here, right?
That's correct.
So do you know what it's looking into?
It actually looks over into their side yard, but there's a lot of vegetation here. There's quite a number of mature trees, including the big pepper tree, which is about right here.
And their property is lower, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think what I would like to see, because I think we both all pretty feel comfortable with the addition, but I think I'd like to see a site section through here, kind of showing this house and the windows.
And include the house.
Yeah, include this house.
Sure.
So that
No
we
problem.
can see what the privacy issue, because you are, like I said, we do have a recommendation of 15 feet. And for me to, or this board to feel comfortable, I think you'd have to prove to us that you're not causing any serious privacy issues here. Like I said, a section would be nice, showing your existing and proposed vegetation. And then on the adjacent house, show that where their windows are located.
Okay.
And I think that would be good to address that issue.
Okay. Is anyone else concerned about the FAR? It's a 97%
Well, that's a good point.
FAR, and it just seems like the house is such a monolith, kind of on that corner, that the walls, well, this Juliet balcony might alleviate some of that, but
So you're talking
I don't
about-
know if you've been out there, but it just looks towering already, and to make 97% FAR.
You have a recommendation?
Do I have a recommendation? When you return to us, study lowering the FAR.
Okay.
Is it a bulk issue or a maybe plate height issue?
It is a bulk issue. I mean, it's bulky without there being an addition. I mean, when I drove out there, that's what struck me, that it was monolithic all the way around, and I was surprised that there was going to be an addition, so.
So something to study is the bulk issue to kind of soften it, and there's a recommendation to lower the FAR. There's creative ways, and I also request too that you sharpen up your floor plans. I know this is your first cut, but
Right, because maybe this could be moved in a couple of feet, and that would take care of the balcony issue, keeping in the thing, and it would also lower your FAR.
you might want to reduce this balcony a little bit too. I mean, just to.
There's a couple of options that we can consider.
Okay.
Sure.
Let your
And I'll
creative
make
juices
sure
flow.
I get the
How big is
plans
that?
in a
How
little
big is
bit
the master
cleaner
bedroom?
state here for you.
Right there. That's the master bedroom.
It doesn't seem that it's 15 by 14.
Can't make it much smaller.
No, not the bedroom, I was thinking of the.
Well, you have to, yeah, but you, just that.
That side of the house, because isn't that the side that's looking over into the neighbors?
True, that's true, but.
You're right, it is.
Can't make the deck any smaller.
Well,
Can't make the master bedroom any smaller. So you're proposing make the master bath, just bring this.
The master bath and
That's
office.
just
I
her.
don't know, it was
That's just her
just-
suggestion.
Just a
It's
suggestion,
nothing.
it's to study,
Yeah.
to help to reduce the
So
FAR.
you would make
Yeah,
a
you
break
gotta-
right here and have a roof.
Yeah, just realize these windows all are looking into your neighbor, so including so there's something to look at in terms
That's
of.
correct,
You might push
although I
this
might
back,
add.
just this part back. Yeah, see, that's.
Well,
The reality of that location, and I think if I draw the site section you're
Yeah.
requesting,
Yeah.
you'll see that there's quite a bit of vegetation there.
Okay.
and that
Of course,
it's really probably pretty difficult to see. You kind of have to see down and then actually angle back out horizontally to actually see into their windows.
guaranteeing that the vegetation is going to last. Because there's so many tree deaths going on.
Yeah, so anyway, the point being, I
That
think
vegetation's-
it's important for you to kind of study that, understand the sensitivity and the issues.
Sure.
And somehow minimize the privacy issue
Yeah,
here.
and if I can lower the FAR
See if you can lower the FAR would be
gracefully,
great.
I will do that.
And there's a feeling that it's just too bulky right now, even though this is existing. I actually think this is an improvement, but the front is the front,
The bulkiness of the residence, if that's what you want to call it, I don't think is ever going to change. It is.
You might want to bring
kind
this-
of a big box.
Yeah,
anyway.
right.
Or you could do something to articulate the front, so it's not just one, there's just two big wall planes, one on Lucinda and one on, the other.
That's why I tried to set the addition back 2 feet from that plane, so that, we didn't get that, same plane continuing down Lucinda towards Cayo Lorales.
You set that.
This is all one plane. This is the existing.
Yeah.
And so, actually, when you look at the height of what's there now, it's pretty close to where the addition and the crickets and added gable forms are. But I'll look at that.
Okay. So would like someone like to make a motion? Like I said, this is for comments only, and it needs an environmental assessment.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What's entailed in environmental assessment? Is that?
So the city runs a master environmental assessment, and essentially what it does is generates a checklist to make sure that we've looked at all the biological impacts, visual impacts, if it's in any architecturally or archaeologically sensitive areas. So it's just a report that we run basically, and it's an exemption that qualifies you from undergoing further review under CEQA.
Oh, okay.
May I ask another question? Your neighbor usually get people up here a little bit more strongly that they don't want people looking down into their bedroom windows.
Right now, he wouldn't be looking into our window. It's where like the balcony is. It's we have like a second living room, and it would be the roof.
Well, a lot of our decisions are based on
Well, that's why he's going to come back with the
Yeah,
site
yeah.
section and locate the windows.
And that's where our concern was where we didn't know what the balcony was going to look like or where it was positioned, and so we were afraid.
Come back
Okay.
to the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
And when we do this, we can come over and show you guys this before.
We also did canvass the neighborhood. We talked to
Right.
the 10 closest houses and explained what our intentions were and got their feedback, everyone who was willing to.
So I just need someone to make a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I would like to make a motion that you come back to the full board and with positive comments. I think this is only comments only, yes. Elevations. Okay. Consider lowering the FARs and bringing this, it's kind of hard here, but consider doing something here, maybe this way, maybe the elevation. Sorry, I'm going too far.
Okay.
FARs.
Yeah.
FARs.
Okay.
And then would you like this? Shows that it's a.
You like the Juliet balcony
Yeah,
proposed
I'd like
on the
to-
east elevation?
What's proposed here. And we like to change it a little bit with the portals or the outriggers, whatever they're called.
Gussets, brackets. This is where we'll do a little bit of
No, that's
rework.
That's my.
Would you like to add the site section and
Yes,
draw on the
site section going down to your neighbors, including their outline of their house, where their windows are located.
on the north side?
Yeah, on the north side, no, east side.
Oh,
North.
right,
side.
right.
East side. East
I was
side.
looking-
Correct.
Yeah,
East side. Okay.
and,
I can second that.
Okay, got a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, ayes have it.
Thank you very
See you
much.
back.
You can take those two sets, otherwise I'll.
don't talk too much when I make a motion. Thanks, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. 120 Summit Lane.
Oh, no.
Would you like to come forward? Hi, Tom.
Can we come up with some other?
Okay, this is a new item, so I'm going to read it into the record. Proposal for alterations to an existing 3,608 square foot, one-story single residential unit with an attached 740 square foot, three-car garage. The proposed project includes converting 74 square feet of the existing garage into habitable space. Exterior alterations include replacing the existing tile roof with composite shingles, window and door alterations, new board and batten siding, a covered entry deck, and converting an existing trellis to a solid flat roof. Other site improvements include a new pool and spa at the rear, an existing total of 4,348 square feet of development on a 37,913 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 89% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. The proposed project will address violations in zoning information report ZIR 2018-00158. Again, this project is here for comments only. Project requires environmental assessment. So could you introduce yourself and show us your project?
Yeah, it's Tom Henson, Becker Henson Next Door Architects. This is mainly just a refreshing of a house that was done in the 70s and is not done very well.
Okay.
The addition is just converting a part of the garage to a mudroom, so we're not going outside the footprint. This patio now is an open trellis, and it'll still look like a trellis, but we're covering a portion of it so they can have more shade and rain protection. Existing floor plan. Proposed floor plan, we're doing some reconfiguring in this area. Right now there's not much of a master suite or master closet, and they have 2 kids, and so they want 2 nice rooms with en-suites and a nice master suite and a small office, and then remodeling the kitchen. Right now the back 8 feet or so are greenhouse, like the kind of 70s looking, maybe 8 feet of sloped glass that comes down to about 7 feet high, or maybe even a little less than that. So we're kicking the roof up to from instead of a 3.5 and 12 pitch to a 2.5 and 12 pitch over this area, so it can be a normal wall height. This is the area that's getting the covered portion. It'll still look like a pergola from the outside, but it'll be covered on the inside. It has a big overhang here that we're cutting off now. When you come up to the house, this looks like the front door, and we're getting rid of it. So you're forced to go to the front door. Right now the front porch only goes from here to here, and the driveway's over there, so you can't even see the front door, so we're just bringing the front porch over the rest of the way. Centering it.
Okay.
This is the before, sort of a S-tile Spanish roof and
Classic 70s.
Classic 70s Spanish. So the owners, they like the space, but they hate the feel, and they wanted something more rambling because it's a rambling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just asphalt shakes. They wanted metal, but it was too expensive. So, board and bat, and double hung windows, farmhouse. So that's
Is it plastered now?
It's plaster now.
You put board and bat over top of it, or just my own information?
This is the first builder that said he thinks he can do it. Every other, this has come up on a few other projects, and builder says, no way, it's a waterproofing nightmare, but this builder says, I figured out a way to do it. So it's still, we still don't know. I think it's gonna end up, the stucco's gonna end up coming off in the end. So that's the big greenhouse that we're replacing with a solid roof. And instead of the big aluminum sliders, we're doing French doors and changing that to carriage type doors. And they don't want to do anything to the outside, or as little as possible. They have hired a landscape architect who would have thoughts when we come back on maybe what to do around the pool. They want to keep it maybe Diamond or something. They don't want a big, a lot of hard area back here. So they just want to tread lightly.
You have a location of the pool equipment?
It's actually going over here.
Okay.
Somewhere on this side. That's the idea for now.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we get any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions?
Isn't this, sorry, I apologize, I didn't get out to look at this project.
Sure.
Didn't we do another one, right? Didn't we just?
Summit Road, but not Summit Lane. This is a little side street.
No, we looked at another one on
Summit Lane.
The little lane, the little offshoot.
Yeah.
Where is?
Private street.
Well,
Sorry.
here, they're up there.
Didn't we look at one right here?
There's a house there, there's work being done in the corner.
No, there's just a foundation.
Oh, that's my house.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on.
Is that the one we're, No, there's one, didn't we do that?
Yeah, it's
one
right
with
in there.
Right in
corner?
there, with it's just a foundation.
Yeah.
Is this right here?
Yeah, it's in that little cul-de-sac.
Yeah. Does that?
This is the this is the cul-de-sac right here.
Yeah.
So the one described is right here?
Nope. It's down here.
Down farther. So it's farther, closer to Summit Road.
It's, no.
Right down in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to ornamentate myself to the.
It's really private. It's a really private little
Yeah.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
There's hedging all along here, and you can really only see the garage in this back door, so that's going away. So, I mean, the garage is staying, but the back door is going away.
Yeah, so
to guide people to the front door. We're moving the front door over. Right now, the front door is here, and we're moving it to here.
My house is right here.
In their
That one?
backyard,
What's
right
that
behind them.
That's because it comes up right here. The access comes up right here, right?
I don't know, whatever.
That's your.
Yeah, let's look at the house. Okay, I think your presentation's complete, and okay. Got me confused. Okay. Are we into comments or questions?
Okay, I still have another question.
Please, okay.
When we were looking at this, I'm sorry I'm bringing this up, but didn't we get a person coming in and verbally talk to us about this property right here as you come up the road? Because this is a swell, and this is a swell that comes right down here.
The swale is over here. It's back there. There's a big hedge right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our clients just bought the house.
Yeah, it slopes down, and there's this ravine down over here, full of oak trees and rocks.
Yeah, I did that property. Is that your property now?
Oh, God.
Anyway, okay. Stop.
We don't have Fred here because Fred would remember all this.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot.
It looks very approvable. It looks like a big improvement. And after going out there, I would be in full support of what you're doing.
Thank you.
I agree, and I think, especially with this entryway here, because it looks like you would be going in there. So I think that's going to be a nice improvement.
We're trying to talk the owners into even screening this off.
Yeah.
So you don't, so you come in and see the front and then curve around to the garage. They said they have teenage drivers and they're a little afraid of them coming around, and but the more this is screened, the better it'll be.
What?
I'm getting confused now. My house is down here. Anyway, okay.
North's
That's
that
what
way.
I thought it was.
Yeah, it was down here. You're right. Okay.
And the swell comes down.
All right. I think we've had enough comments. Does someone want to make a motion, please?
We're skirting them.
The board would like to give this project positive comments and move it on to the environmental assessment stage and come back to us when you have more information.
Are you forwarding it to consent or full board?
Oh, consent?
I can second that. Yeah.
Okay, can I have a comment?
Yeah.
Could the maker of the motion please include gutters and how you're going to gutter it in your lights?
Yes.
Please include gutters and lighting information.
And a color board?
And we'll see what consent.
Okay, the motion was made. It was second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. You got it.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's nice.
Okay, Lisa.
Thanks.
Oh, wait.
Thanks.
And if we could read the fair political practices section there.
Yes. This one?
The sole proprietor, yeah.
The design board would like to state that the applicant is a sole proprietor, and we need to read this notice that the State Fair Political Practices Act, Regulation 18702.4B states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Brian Miller is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his client.
We can read into the description of the project, please.
Yes. The proposed information at 2315 Chapala Street is that the Mission Revival Residence is part of an intact early 20th century streetscape and is a contributing structure to a potential historic district. Proposal for a remodel and addition, including a new second story and basement to the existing single-family residence. The project includes demolition of the existing one-car garage and construction of a new 463 square foot two-car garage. The proposed total of 2,380 square feet on a 6,460 square foot lot is 85% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. Project requires a modification by the staff hearing officer for the reduced area of qualifying open yard. And would you like to introduce yourself and present your project, sir?
Yes, I'm Brian Miller. I'm the designer of this project.
Okay.
This is a very charming little Spanish colonial home that was built in the 20s. It went through an extensive historical research to determine whether it should go before the Historical Landmarks Committee or Single Family Design Board. And it was determined then that because there had been so many remodels and things done to the house, it pretty much lost its character of its original form. So actually what my intention of this is to actually restore it kind of back to that original character, plus bring it up to date to a current floor plan to, you know, how we live today in the modern living. So what we're proposing is, if you look here carefully, this is the front, the original front door went in this way. We're moving the front door here, and this is the dining area. This is the existing living area, coming back to a kitchen, laundry area, adding a second bedroom. There's only one bedroom now with a really small bathroom. And then this is the first level, and then there's an access to the backyard. Back here would be, there's an existing one-car garage right here now that's about to fall over, and it's really in bad shape. So we're going to demo the one-car garage, extend the driveway back, and put a two-car garage in the back here. Not only that, we're pulling this wall back, so we're widening the driveway here a little bit, so it's better access to the back. The pavement here will all be permeable pavers. It's a Tier 2 required stormwater management, so we will be using, I think, rain gutters for this project. This is to show the second floor, which is a master bedroom suite with his and her closet, have a stairway up with their master bath, and then this is down in the basement, which sits below a grade at maximum 4 feet, so it qualifies for a basement, which would have a media room, really nice wine cellar, and a great area for storage with a little half bath. This is the elevations. This is the current front elevation. This right here is the existing house. This second story addition is what I'm adding, which the plate height is only 7 feet 6 inches. As you know, Fred always says that always makes a nice proportion, which I agree. So it's set into the existing footprint, so it's not overwhelming the first floor. This is the side elevation that looks to this, what do I have, the north elevation. It's showing this is the addition, this is the existing house. This is the rear elevation, showing into the backyard. And this is the way into the back, into the laundry room, hallway to the kitchen. And then this is the south elevation, this area. This is the existing house right here, and this is the addition here, but it's looking into hedge and plant material and kind of a, alleyway situation. And then this is the existing garage, pretty much mimicking the style of the existing home with a flat roof with a little tile cornice that was very popular at that time.
You mean the proposed?
The proposed garage, yes, the new two-car garage with a classic-looking carriage house drive garage door, and then the gutters.
Classic.
Yeah.
How many?
Let me see if there's something else I'm going to say. It's an interesting house. Like I said, all the windows and doors are intended to be restored to the original type of windows and doors that were used at that period. So the addition actually is a 2x6 thick wall, so we should get some nice thickness to detailing out the windows to keep it that charming. And as far as the houses, it's like I said, it's in one of those neighborhoods that's in transition. These are rather large homes. They used to be nice little cottage homes, but they've added second-story additions to them. This is a apartment building that was built in the 60s that sits in the back. But I think what I'm kind of very pleased with is the fact that when you see the elevation, it still retains that charm and what I think retains the charm and cohesiveness of the home, which was its original intention. Oh, and also the front door is actually put in I think, a more inviting location, having it framed into that arch. Yeah. And then the stairwell frames nicely up here, which I think is something they would have done back in those days. And that's my presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
All right. Seeing that there's no public comment, would anyone on the board like to ask questions?
How many square foot are you, it doesn't show.
Mm-hmm.
How many square foot are you adding?
It's all up here. So
463.
we're adding, no.
More than that.
So the existing, okay, here's the garage. The house now is at, let's see.
First one I've seen, we didn't have that information on our.
This isn't the project description needs to be updated. It's not the most up to date.
Yeah, let me see. Let me turn this. I can't read this upside down. So the existing house.
Sorry, do you want me to read? I have an accurate description. So this is a proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 887 square foot single residential unit with a detached 198 square foot one-car garage. The project includes the demolition of the existing one-car garage and construction of a new 463 square foot detached two-car garage. Other site improvements include a first-story addition of 462 square feet, a new second-story addition of 567 square feet, and a new 323 square foot basement. The proposed total of 2,380 square feet of development on a 6,460 square foot lot is 85% of the maximum allowable floor to lot area ratio, FAR, and staff hearing officer review is requested to allow for reduced open yard area requirements.
Oh, that's the other thing. Sorry, I had to say. We're asking for a modification for a reduction of the open yard area back in this area. So that needs to be included in the motion if you find that acceptable.
Can I ask, is the reduction in open yard to allow for the driveway turnaround?
The two-car garage and the turnaround of the driveway. Yeah, it's pretty limited in my options.
Is there going to be any landscaping done in this area?
Probably be a lawn. They have dogs. They have these cute rescue dogs. By the way, there was a garage, two-car garage here designed previously that got a permit that they didn't do. So this is, it had a second-story unit to it, but they didn't follow through. So this is, but yeah, it'll probably be just lawn. And there's pictures too. I don't know. Oh, he's got them. Okay.
No, I went out there.
There was a house up here for sale, 1.2. That is the
Oh, that's the new.
Yes, that's
I'm
the
not
new
too
roof
sure
plan,
what
and those are gutters and downspouts. It's kind of confusing.
Oh, that's the second story.
Right.
Second story, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It just says the new floor plan.
yeah, yeah.
So this is the existing house.
Yep.
Back here.
Exactly.
Which it cuts right along here.
Right.
And probably a deck, was there a deck there?
Yeah, there's
before?
a picture of it there. To show, yeah, this is it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're adding first, well, no, well, you're adding a basement and a first floor and a second floor right in that area.
Right.
In that area.
Mhm.
The stairway comes up.
Exactly. Yeah, it kind of comes up that way. And then this is the stairway down to the basement.
Yeah, okay.
Brian, in this area, I can't tell from these pictures, are there other second houses with 2 stories?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the next door neighbor. In fact, let me show you. This is this one right here. This is kind of illustrative. My project is right here. You can see this house has these huge little additions, and then this is the apartment house in the built back. In fact, I'd say this house here is the only remaining house that still has the existing.
Room behind it.
Yeah.
What street is this? This is
Chapala.
Going up Chapala.
Yeah.
That's a church right here.
Yes.
What's this? Medical right here? No.
It's close to Junipero, right? And
No, this
Pueblo?
is, Pedregosa.
Pedregosa of Pueblo.
This is a house up here, down here, that's kind of we got our inspiration. Kind of the same application. We use the second floor, kind of sits back.
The flat roof's going to be on the second floor, second roof?
No, it'll be a 2-piece mission tile, like this. Kind of like that.
Okay.
It looks sensible. After driving by, I feel that you've been sensitive to the neighborhood and it fits well.
Thank you.
And with the way it's set back and there's a little plate height, so I find it supportable. We're on comments? No, we're on questions.
It's your call.
Okay, we're on comments.
I find it acceptable. I like it. I think it looks pretty. I do too, and I think it goes nicely with the neighborhood. No.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
With windows and the different roofs. Yeah.
I can improve.
That's the front. Front is right there. Oh, yeah.
Okay, with
This is the south side, ocean side, south elevation. West elevation.
Would someone care to make a motion? This
I
project
can-
is here for comments only and will be continued on to the staff hearing officer. Jan?
I can make a motion.
Please include whether
So,
you accept the.
I know. So, this board finds this project acceptable, very nice design that's compatible with the neighborhood. I think it's really a nice job. I think that even the reduced yard area is acceptable to accommodate a turnaround for that 2-car garage. I think it would be nice to see a landscape plan, what they're planning to do in there.
Okay.
But this could come back to consent.
Okay.
That's my motion.
All right.
Second.
Any comments to that?
I guess the only comment I'd make is since the yard is being reduced, but it's really not, I mean, you're still going to have the drive turnaround area.
Right.
Could that be permeable to make it a little bit more?
It is permeable.
Oh, it is permeable?
Yes.
Okay, my mistake.
No, that's fine.
Okay, is that all the comments? Well, let's take a vote. All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Nobody abstained? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay. I think that concludes today's single-family design review board. Oh, would you like to close the meeting? Acting,
No, you'll need to close it. He's on the other side.
Okay, I will close the meeting again for a second time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.